It's 3 rounds down and 1 to go, and it's still so close to the top here for the RaceRoom Ranked Championship 2022. We've had 3 incredible rounds of action, and it all gets wrapped up today here at Interlagos, a new track, new venture here on RaceRoom. So maybe some of the drivers need to get used to it a little bit, and that could always add some spice because the championships, as we mentioned, are still up for grabs, and there's still loads of things that we need to find out. Myself, Cameron Rodger, and Ewan O'Leary taking you through the WTCR Trophy before Lewis McGlade comes on for the GT3 Pro Series a little bit later on. And Ewan, we've had some great racing, especially last time out in Daytona. We've seen so much slipstream action, so many people passing even to the line with Sebastian Ray there, and we're just expecting that to continue today.
We certainly are. There's no better place, in my opinion, to end off a season, even a shortened one at 4 rounds like this one, than we have here at Interlagos. Maybe not the best racing translated into sim racing sometimes, but we're hoping that will change. We haven't seen a moment of quiet WTCR action, I've got to say, so far throughout those opening 3 rounds. It's been very exciting indeed, and so that especially is going to continue over the next few minutes. Very excited indeed to get this finale underway. A lot of maths coming up for us, but it's going to be very, very enjoyable.
Absolutely. Just 6 points separate Sebastian Ray and Balázs Nagy at the front of this WTCR Trophy, which is going to be coming your way. As ever, we have the 3 races throughout each round. We have the 3 categories. We've got the AM race for you, the WTCRs. Then we'll show you the highlights of the Rookies Cup using the Formula 4 cars, which happened last night. And then we go on to the Pro Series, the GT3 Pro Series, in fact, where we get the wonderful 1-hour race with a pit stop coming your way. But first, we have the touring cars to come your way. And here is what they've done so far this season. We've gone to the Hockenheim Ring, the Red Bull Ring, Daytona, and then Interlagos. So a bit of a switch up from the rounds we had at season 1 earlier in 2022, where the drivers, of course, will be trying to take the crowns away from the guys in that first season. But Max Pfeiffer, again, looking to take the crown in the Pro Series a little bit later. But it is Sebastian Ray, Balázs Nagy, 6 points apart, and with 50 points on offer, Ewan, I think it's going to be pretty close. And I know maybe just a couple of positions here and there might really just change this around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the point system that you just referred to there, 50 points for a win, does mean that the top 8 actually have a mathematical chance of winning here tonight, the overall championship in the WTCR AM Trophy. So, yeah, very much still up for grabs around this great circuit. As I mentioned earlier, it's such an iconic venue to hold a championship finale. We've seen so much drama, more drama than we can even, mention here in terms of real life and in terms of what we've seen around here. I'm sure there's plenty more to be written here later on. But yeah, it's been a great season so far. But consistency has been the thing that has really gotten these 2 drivers to the front. Sebastian Ray and Balázs Nagy haven't finished below 4th all season long, which is very impressive given the chaotic racing that we've seen. And sometimes, Cam, it really has just been about survival in some of these races. We've seen a fair amount of incidents, and these 2 have somehow managed to keep inside the top 4 throughout, which is kind of remarkable, really.
Certainly. It's not the easiest of categories either to get towards the top. It's a slightly, obviously, the front wheel drive nature of the cars as well. That just adds a little bit more of a thinking for some of these drivers to get around that fact. Of course, especially the ones at the top here in the top split of this championship, they certainly know what they're doing, but it certainly adds potential for drivers getting worse exits, maybe just wearing out the tires a little bit more and things like that. And that is why we see some of the drivers sort of all over the place and a little bit up and down below those top couple of guys, because as you say, those 2 have been in the top 4. But we look, Benz Farkas, he's down in 8th place in the championship. He got that first round win in Hockenheim Ring, then sort of went a little bit further down the order, got to sort of squeeze out of the way at the Red Bull Ring, and then had a disconnect last time out. So he's got massive work to do to get anywhere near the top of this standing. So a lot of things can still happen in these races, and there's definitely the potential for some argy-bargy as well. And we saw especially the Red Bull Ring going some of the hairpins into the braking corners. You're going to see drivers getting pushed out, and then 2-3 cars just come past you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these TCRs stay so close together, and we're going to see a little bit of this in the GT3s as well, I feel, a little bit later on, where everybody's going to be running single file. Once you get pushed out of line there, it's very easy for the driver behind the battling pair to kind of barge their way in, and then the driver that's on the outside can never get back to the inside again, especially at a circuit like this one, running anti-clockwise as it does. There's quite a few left-handers around here, and it's difficult to, if you end up on the outside, difficult to get back to the inside again. So it's or online again, I should say more accurately. So it could be a real struggle for some of these drivers.
Yeah, so let's take a look around this track actually here at the Interlagos. As we mentioned, it's a fairly new track to RaceRoom as well, but of course, plenty of history. Down through turn 1 and 2, through the center S, and out onto this back straight, through turn 3, a massively fast corner, easily flat out as well. But then this is really the first time you're going to be getting the slipstream all the way down the Retroposta in towards turn 4, and this is a pretty hard braking zone into a 90-degree left-hander, but then coming all the way through there, out through turns 4 and 5. That is the important part, to get that run up the hill as well. Coming into turn 6 and 7, a double apex right-hander uphill as well. Got to balance the throttle throughout, not over push the tyres in the mid part of the corner before you then come into the next braking zone, into this sort of hairpin sequence, left, right, multiple times. Got to keep those front tyres in a nice temperature, not overheating them as the race goes on. Then in towards turn 10, you're going to see a lot of potential overtakings in there. There's a little kink before the braking zone, and it really opens up as you get towards the apex. Then coming down the hill now through turn 11 in towards what is effectively the final corner at Junsao, and this is going to be so important to get the run off there, because even though there's technically corners after this through 13, 14, 15 all the way up the hill, this is all flat out, and it basically turns into one massively long straight all the way coming up to the final kink at the pit entry and up towards the line and Ewan. That means if you get a bad exit there out of that final corner on the final lap, you can definitely be slipstream to the line around here.
Well, I don't think it just applies to the final lap. It will apply to every single lap around here. By far the most important corner on this circuit. And I feel especially in these WTCR cars as well, they're not that quick in a straight line, of course. The power a little bit less than what we see in even the GT3s, especially some of the Formula 1 cars, obviously, that we get around here at Interlagos. So they spend a lot more time on the straight here, which means that any mistake made will be amplified down towards turn 1. You also do need to get your braking zone right into turn 1, as we didn't see Bowser's manage just there. And he returns back to the start to give it another go. It's a good opening lap from him, though. As you say, they're very tricky to string a whole lap together around here, especially through the middle sector. The corners come at you very, very quickly indeed, and offline through 1 can set you off for the whole lap, really. I mean, imagine going wide through here at Ferradura, then you're going to end up with a strange braking zone and a strange line in towards turn 7 as well, and then you're going to be out of shape for 8. So it just, continues on and on. And so you've got to really nail every apex and nail every corner and every braking zone.
Indeed, this middle sector is also the longest one on the track, so definitely look out for some differential between the drivers through this part, because Sector 1 ends coming in towards turn 4 at the back straight, and then Sector 2 finishes all the way up here, coming in towards the final corner as well. But this is Denez having a better run of it at this moment in time, coming around to the final corner and having a purple Sector 1, Sector 2 half a second up. Balazs is leading the way, and that is of course crucial for the championship, with the leader Ray down in 3rd place, but only 2 tenths behind. And as we come towards the line, take the shortest run as close as you can to the pit wall, and let's see where Denez can put himself. Hungarian goes to the top by 4 tenths of a second. That is a big lap coming his way.
It's a huge lap from him, half a second ahead of the rest. The next half a second will see you all the way down outside the top 10. A huge lap from Ferenc Denez. I was just about to say, actually, that he really needs a big day today. He is in 3rd place in the standing, he's 4th place in the standings right now. 23 points adrift of Sebastian Rey, currently at the top. He needs a very, very big performance, because even with a win, he would need Sebastian Rey to finish 9th or lower. It's looking very unlikely that Denez could steal the championship away, but he's clearly put all the practice in possible, and he's given himself the best possible chance to try and do something here in this race, but that really does need everything to fall his way.
He certainly does, as some more drivers are coming in there. Farkash up into 2nd place, Naj as well into 3rd. Fosto initially got up into 2nd place. He's now down into 4th. Fosto is 3rd in the championship as well, just 1 point ahead of Denez there. So that is a big fight for them. Even if they maybe can't get the overall victory in the championship, getting that top 3 is of course a good result for any of those drivers. And here is the Swede coming up towards that turn 5 and 6 section, as we're seeing the drivers still continue to put in times. Good to see Pavel McGlade there up in 6th place. He was having a good run of it in the early stages of the Hockenheimring back at the start of the season before having an unfortunate issue there, which put him out of that race. So we know that he is fast, and the drivers are just showing how close it can be, even though there's a bit of a gap forming towards the front. That mid-pack, anywhere from sort of 5th, 6th, all the way down towards the top 15. There's just a couple of tenths separating about 10, 15 drivers.
Yeah, it's very, very close in the midfield there, as you say, maybe from 3rd down to, 21st, there's 8 tenths. It's 18 drivers in there, and so it's, very, very close indeed. But once again, the Hungarians are just all over the front of this race. It's absolutely fantastic for them, with Dennis, Farkas and Noj at the moment, 1, 2 and 3, having a fantastic opening to this qualifying session with just over 4 minutes to go. Foster trying to disrupt that, of course, but he had a slightly poor run through Junsao. I reckon there's still a bit of time left in actually for him. He's both on the clock and indeed in that lap time. He did get 3rd there, but didn't have the greatest run out the final corner, so there may well be more to come from him as Noj comes over the line and he jumps back up to 3rd. Sebastian Ray going to be getting slightly concerned about that.
Yeah, he certainly does. McConan goes up into 5th place on his lap as well. And as you say, championship leader Ray down in 8th place. That is certainly not the place that you want to be when the points are so close between you and your rival. It's going to be hard to get positions back. Of course, they've got plenty of time in the race to do so, and lots of things can happen. But you don't want to be on the back foot. You certainly want to be starting on the front foot in these types of races as you're getting more drivers continue. There's Krejci there in 7th place, getting his car. He's Alfa Romeo up there towards 7th, as we're seeing Sandstrom as well making some improvements, and Ray down to 9th place now, is improving on his own time there in that first sector, but he's going to have to make up a little bit more coming through this middle part of the lap.
He's going to have to do the hard work here through the middle sector, of course. Not too many corners involved within the first sector, so can't read too much in, but it was a good lap. And this is going well so far for Sebastian Ray. Just one more corner to go, really. Needs a big run out of Junsao here because he's not got long to go in this session now. Just under 3 minutes remaining. Out the final corner he comes. It looks like a very good run for him there. If he's able to at least hold that margin that he's at the moment, he will jump up to at least 7th. It might even be better, depending on that final sector and that final run that he has now up towards the line. Going to shorten the distance as much as possible. And over the line for the championship leader. It is going to be an improvement, but it's still only 7th.
Certainly is. That is a big gap as well. 4 tenths is a lot of time in such a close field to try and work out. As Noj goes back up into 3rd place. Popov, in the meantime, also jumped up into 3rd, but now down to 4th place. He had a great run back at Daytona 3 weeks ago as well. Orbital up into 8th place on his previous lap. 2 minutes remaining, and remember, you have to finish your time within that 2 minutes. So pretty much everyone's starting their laps now. This will be their final laps that they will get, and Dennis still leading the way by just over 1/10 of a second.
Certainly does, and I think he is looking good to hold on from that. It seems that even he can't beat his own lap time at this stage. He's certainly struggling to manage that. He's going to try one more time here with the clock very much running down. I think he's just about going to get this lap in, but other than that, not many other drivers are going to be able to. I'm just looking behind though, and just trying to see, can anybody actually overhaul him from this point? Farkas, does he quite have enough to overhaul Dennis? I'm not entirely convinced. Same goes for the likes of Noj and Popov as well. So we'll see. But I think Dennis is looking pretty secure in that pole position, no matter whether he does improve on this last lap or whether he doesn't. Either way, but we'll find out. Just over a minute to go.
Yeah, we certainly was. Farkas, of course, without those issues in the previous race, probably would be up towards 3rd, 4th place in the championship. So it's a bit of a disappointment for him overall. That's going to be difficult to at least be battling for the championship today, but at least getting up back in towards that top 3, top 4 area with a really good result. If there's some issues for the cars ahead, would be a good result. But the GPSE driver coming through this middle sector, of course, the very important parts of the lap. This is where you have to get the flow going. This is where one corner leads into the next, and you've got to keep that momentum going as he's actually on a pretty decent lap though. Just a 10th and a half down at that middle part of the lap, coming through sector 2. I've seen a few drivers trying to move themselves around up inside the top 10. Daniel and Orban getting up there towards the front, and I think in the end that wasn't going to be an improvement potentially from Farkas, who backs out of that one. Looks like Dinez is going to be holding on. There's still a couple of seconds left in the race, in the session I should say. Let's see if there's going to to be any movements inside this top 12. But if not, it is going to be Denez leading the way from Farcash, and your championship leader, Sebastian Ray, down in 7th place, and that is going to be some work. Good job to get back up from 9th, though, but still 7th. That's quite a few cars to overtake.
It certainly is, and he does need to improve there. In these positions, he would lose the championship if these positions were to remain the same throughout the race. I get the feeling that they're certainly not going to do that. And I've got to be honest, I thought that the Hockenheim race at the opening round of the season was going to be a very single-file affair, and we were going to be struggling for things to look at and talk about, to be honest. But it turned out to be possibly the craziest race of the season that we've seen so far, maybe with the exception of Daytona, where they were side-by-side to the line, of course. But we're expecting sort of similar things from Interlagos, maybe a bit of disappointment, maybe not too much action, but we could be proven wrong once again. And with a championship on the line, it is never boring. Half an hour to sort this one out. It's going to be very close indeed.
Indeed, there's just half an hour of racing to go in the season 2 of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship for 2022. We had a great season 1 earlier on in the year, and it's come back with flying colours. Different cars this time around. We went to the WTCRs in the AM category, moving away from the GT4s that we had in season 1, and they've certainly produced a great race. But who is going to come out on top? Sebastian Ray, Balázs Nagy, or someone else here to round out the final race of the Ranked Championship for 2022. The lights are on, and when they go out, we are racing. Phil Denez gets a bit of a run coming towards turn number 1, and Farcash up the inside, though. Is there going to be any sort of late braking, any sort of battling in towards turn 1? Farcash is sending a little bit towards the inside. Bit of contact between the two as Denez manages to hold on to the lead, as they're side by side in the background as well. Fosto, and we're getting a pop up there, having a bit of contact as well as they try to farm their way into a single file line. Fosto having to back out of that one, but the lead towards the line is going to be coming further down towards turn number 4. Farcash trying to get up the inside once again, but is Denez going to be able to hold on? 3 Hungarians in the top 3 as it stands, side by side through turn number 4. They're still side by side. They're still holding all the way through turn 5 as well as they come up towards turn 6.
Yeah, around the outside through 4 and 5 there for Denez should give him the lead into Ferratura. Now the inside line, it's certainly given him, and it is going to be a holding on of the lead there for him. Balázs Nagy wasn't able to get involved, although Farcash still giving his compatriot a really rough time. Popov trying to get involved as well. Outside line for Farcash gives him the inside, maybe for turn 9, but he's not going to be able to do it there. And so now Nagy is going to have the opportunity maybe at 10. We'll see. There's a big dives late on the brakes from everybody, but no positional changes. Sebastian Rim not able to make his way up through the order either. It was Fosto who was on the curve on the inside line at turn 3 there. He went backwards, but Koning wasn't able to capitalise though.
And as we come out onto the starting straight for the first time around, 28 minutes still remaining, and it is Sebastian Ray still down in 7th place, trying to catch Balázs Nagy up into 3rd place and continuing to stay there in this opening portion of the lap. But it is going to be Denez there leading the way from Farcash. Hungarians leading the way in the Cooper and the Hyundai as we get towards turn number 1. Nagy having to defend just a little bit towards turn number 1, having to try and look, but Farcash goes wide actually, and that could be a bit of a run here. Nagy getting the run, bit of contact between the two through turn 3. As they come out through turn 4, can the momentum be the way of Nagy down this back straight? A long run towards turn 4 in these cars, and the momentum factor is something that we've been mentioning is certainly going to be a factor here towards turn 4, but not quite enough to make a move there on the inside.
Sebastian Rea, though, is under severe pressure from Petter Daniel at the moment. The Soul at Honda inside the top 10, coming under real fire from the Alfa Romeo. The two side by side through turn 5 now. Sebastian Rea is going backwards, and it looks like Petter Daniel has made that move stick. So down to 8th place for the German. It's been a real terrible start for him. He hasn't looked particularly comfortable. He's going down the inside. It's a big dive, and he has to make these kind of moves. But Daniel was wise to it. He went for the over and under. The two of them lean on each other severely, and they'll still be side by side into turn 10.
And this is a big move for Ray. He's got to be fighting this, but all this is doing is losing time to the cars ahead. And this is still only for 8th position, 7th position if he gets past. And Daniel making a good move there. Took him about half a lap, but that is certainly what needs to be done. But McConan is getting away. About a second is the gap now towards the P6 driver. Ray having a bad exit there coming out of turn 12 as well. As we come up the hill once again, the moves are potentially going to be being made by those over behind. And that could be even more places, even more drama for Ray to come back from. Still 26 minutes left, but those laps and minutes are going going to go down very, very quickly in this race. Is Bozo going to have enough pace coming towards the line? Ray defending towards the inside. This could be so important to stop all these positions being lost. Around the outside, though, goes Bozo. That's going to be a big move if he can hold it in towards turn 2. But Ray's now going to have the outside line. A bit more contact between teams to turn 3, but Ray holds on.
Absolutely, yes, close. And once again, Ray on the defensive, massively hit. Oh, very close. Rod Buzzer going to be under fire himself now from Maroon, who's got up there into turn 4. And he's going to have this position by the looks of things. Sebastian Rea has really done well here to hold on to that 8th place and stopped going backwards quite as quickly, which is a very good move for him. Now he's going to start looking forwards. He's going to take comfort in the fact that Bowser's Notch at the moment isn't exactly looking strong and isn't exactly moving forward at a real rate of knots at the moment either. He's up in 3rd, but Bowser's applying a lot of pressure to him.
Yeah, it's getting so close between those leaders, and that is one factor obviously that we have to keep in mind. Of course, we need to look out for Ray as well, but the race victory is something to think about as well. So much curve there for Nez through turn 10. That's potentially the best run. Of course, only 4 races in each season so far, so that is only potential for 8 different winners over the course of 2022. So a race victory is still very much what these drivers want, even if they don't win the overall championship. But Farkash got a great run there out of turn 12, up through the Kings, up towards the start finish line once again. Are we going to see any sort of move towards turn 1? These two starting to pull away from Noj a little bit further behind, but Dinez holding the inside line all the way up towards turn 1, not getting any slipstream, or letting any slipstream I should say, for Farkash on the outside now in towards turn 1, but it looks like Dinez going to be holding on there.
Yeah, Farkash very clear in his car positioning there from very early on that he was wanting the outside line there, and I think was trying to indicate to Dinez that he didn't want to try and go through there, and he wants to try and push on and get the two of them away from the rest, but that's not really happened so far. It looks like Van Ruin and Orbital might have come together, and Pasemko as well is dropping down the order very quickly indeed, so I think something has gone on into the Senna S there on that lap. You can see the yellow flags. It might not actually be for them, but they're certainly dropping down the order very quickly, especially disappointing for Van Roon actually, who was really challenging for a top 10 at one point, but now he's way down the order, back down to 23rd.
Yeah, Pasemko out of the race as well with a DNF from the outcome of that, which is not what they're going to be wanting to do. But actually, a little bit further by, is that pop-off going a bit wide. Fosto trying to get up towards the outside now of turn 10. A bit of contact between the two. McConan right in behind as well. Fosto trying to get up towards the outside now. That's a very difficult corner, I should say, to go around the outside there. That's not what you want to be doing. You want to be getting a good line here to try and get a bit of a different line, bit of a different angle coming out of turn 12 and up towards the start-finish line. Popov defending as it stands, but look at that power behind Foster getting the run already through the Kings. The issue is you just get too close too early and you potentially don't get the slipstream up towards the line and towards the braking zone of turn 1. Popov holding on, defending like he did in Daytona, going towards the inside line. Foster now towards the outside, when McConan also looking to try and slide through. Foster all the way around the outside turn 1. Maybe actually McConan now down the inside. He's going to be making up a position here. If he can hold all the way around the outside of turn 2, which he can't do, Foster slides back in.
He certainly does. It was very opportunistic driving actually from Mukkonen, who tried to get involved there. But this is fantastic news, by the way, for Sebastian Rea at the moment, with the 3rd position that Bowser Snosh is currently in, and it doesn't look like he's going to fall any further from that just at the moment. Sebastian Rea needs to be 5th place to get the championship, and he would win it on countback if he was to be able to get there. You can just see his Honda in the background of these shots here. 4th place, still very much up for grabs for him. More than 20 minutes to go. It's absolutely not over yet. This championship still has a story to tell, I should say. And this battle is certainly not over yet either. Foster applying an awful lot of pressure.
Yeah, this battle has produced a couple of seconds gap ahead though, so the top 3 starting to get away, and but Fosto and Popov trying to continue this battle, of course, trying to get themselves up a position as it stands. But Popov, he was one driver who actually did a very good job defending back in Daytona. He was in the Alfa Romeo that day, but certainly was able to hold on and use some good racecraft to hold on to the positions, because it's not only just about obviously the potential car you have, and of course the BOP for all the different manufacturers that we have in the touring cars, but it's how you drive that car and how you make it work to your advantage. And as it stands coming up Sector 3 this time around, Popov as well continues to get that 4/10 gap, and Fosto doesn't have a way to get through, and in fact is having to look at McConan in his mirrors.
He is not nobody getting very close to each other this time by the looks of things. Though Foster might have had a dive there. He did. Popov left the door open, and and we saw Foster try and step through it there briefly, but it doesn't look like it paid off. There's a battle for the lead now is just heating up for Antones and Farkas as well. Are they trying to get away from the rest, or are they fighting? It's difficult to tell sometimes. Oh, that was close. Farkas stuck his nose down the inside. Danes made a bit of contact, and so we do have a change for the lead.
We certainly do. Now Noj trying to get a run. He's now got the inside line actually, but just doesn't have the momentum coming up towards turn 6. Farkas though goes wide, maybe letting Danes back through potentially. I'm not sure, that did look a bit on purpose though to let that place back, but now Noj is taking the opportunity down the inside. Contact between the two. Tries to not really go too wide, but he certainly does more contact coming towards the left-handed hairpin as well. Turn 9 is still more contact, even again on the exit. These guys really trying to not give themselves any sort of an inch, and Farkas has to stop back into second overall. But I do think that was a sportsmanship move there, potentially thinking he just moved Danes out of the way in turn 4, even though he was a little bit late as well, and Danes continues in the lead.
Absolutely. It's a nice lead that he's got at the moment as well, but he's going to have to fight hard for it. Popov has done the hard fighting for 4th place there, and now the battle is all over 5th. Fosto is getting pressure from Peter Daniel at the moment, but Pavel McConan is there as well. He's got a few car left there, and then it's Sebastian Rear who needs that 5th place as things stand. But let's not forget that even with a 5th place, Noj can still get those 2 places up in front of him and improve his points tally on the day. So it's certainly not over this championship as things stand. First third of the race down though, and it is very interesting indeed. I think this is the first lap we've seen all race actually where the drivers have stayed single file in towards turn number 1. It hasn't happened very often. Peter Daniel deciding to exercise caution on this occasion, and Farkas deciding that this isn't the moment to go for the lead either. The first single file lap we've seen all race really.
Absolutely. It's great to see though that it's all of the top drivers towards the front as well. All of those top 5, they're in the top battles as well, with Ray included in that one inside the top 6. So we're seeing the championship contenders all at the front in this race, trying to prove their point in the championship. But then you get the likes of Peter Daniel and McConan trying to have a more one-off race for their season, with just how other race results have gone. And Daniel now in that 6th place, got past McConan and is trying to get on the back of Foster, who himself is now trying to keep up with Popov, who is also then trying to stop that gap getting too big ahead, because it's really starting to get bigger now. 3 seconds almost for Popov, as this battle has just calmed down a little bit. He's got a gap to Foster, and now Foster is looking all in the mirrors there of Daniel. That number 25 machine coming out this final corner, choosing the Alpha for this final race of the season. But Foster looked like he got a good exit there up the hill.
Yeah, he certainly did, and Peter Daniel didn't get a particularly good one out of Junshao there, so he's going to fall back in the slipstream this time. But the fight for the lead is very much still on. Danes defending from Farkas, who goes to the outside line. He gives him the inside for 2, but he's not stayed tight enough there at 1, I don't think. Oh, Danes cuts straight across the front of the Cooper there. And here comes Baujas Noj on the outside line at turn 3. It's going to give him the outside for 4 and 5 as well, but if he can hold it there, he'll be on the inside for Ferradura. He slides in front of Farkas, and that's another 4 points to Baujas Noj.
And what a move that is. A Farkas though, another lap pushing the driver through turn 4 this time, and Noj manages to hold on, but Farkas is going to have to stay in that 3rd place, and that was not the move into turn 2. You could just see how much momentum you lose trying to dive it up the inside in that particular corner. You lose it all the way through turn 3, then down the back straight as well in towards turn 4. That is not the place potentially to make an overtake. If you can't do it in turn 1, you either have to commit or back out in turn 2, and unfortunately that lost him a place. And as you say, Noj there just getting those extra few points, and that could be all crucial. But what is happening here? Fosto's losing a place there to Peter Daniel, potentially contact, as Fosto was so wide, and now Daniel's all over the back of Popov as that gap has really come down.
It certainly looked like there was contact. This is a huge fight for 4th place now, and it's music to the ears of Sebastian Rear, who is getting back involved here. Fourth place would not be enough in this situation, but he's doing all he can. He's got to hope that Noj drops the ball up the road. Popov is just doing the best he can to try and get the best result possible from this, but he's certainly going to be under pressure from Petter Daniel here into turn number 1, approaching the halfway mark in this race now. The Alfa Romeo looking very threatening indeed, looking right, looking left. Will he go to the inside and outside? It's going to have to be outside. He's only got one choice. He's going to have to be late on the brakes as well to make this one work. He keeps it tight at turn 1. He squeezes Popov, no end, and that is going to be a move done for Daniel, who gets pushed into the grass slightly at 2 and 3. And here comes Popov to the inside line, sliding all over the curb, and here comes everyone else.
And Foster now getting that run, getting the slipstream as well. He's going to be able to get that position. And is McConan maybe thinking of diving to the inside? But no, he's not. As Popov there loses 2 places with Daniel with such an aggressive move there. As you say, you're just pushing him all over the curb on the inside. Really, really aggressive. Didn't get the best exit, but managed to hold on to it. And that is just the type of racing that you see in these cars, just pushing everyone to the absolute limit.
How can you not love touring car racing? It's absolutely fantastic at the moment, even at a circuit that doesn't lend itself to these types of cars particularly well. It's still providing for us at the moment. Sebastian Rear also now involved. Philip Sandstrom is not too far away. You can see the fellow Sweden, another one of the Hondas. He's made good progress actually so far in this race. He's up to 9th as things stand, about to get involved in this fight for 4th place. But Petter Daniel looking pretty threatening and like he might just try and run away from these other drivers in this train.
This is a big train load for the likes of Ray to come through, and Foster there making another mistake. That's going to give Daniel a bit of respite, but Popov now all over the back of him, coming up through the Kings up towards the start-finish line. Popov getting a massive bit getting slipstream, but he's always too close. He's always pushing the car ahead of Foster up towards the line. Foster defending hard to the inside. That's going to be a tighter line to the apex of turn 1 as they all come around, fan back out to get the racing line in the braking. But Popov all the way around the outside, much better on the brakes. Contact between the two in the apex of turn number 1 and through turn 2 and 3 now. And Popov manages to hold on to that. Foster, maybe with an incident limit, is now out of the race, and that is big for the championship because he's going to be getting 0 points.
Incident limit from Fosto halfway in the race. That's remarkable from him. 3rd place in the championship into today. He could well finish outside the top 10 in the championship if he's not careful by the end of today. I don't think that's quite going to happen, but he was running 3rd. His title chances are over. It's really inexcusable, though, to be honest, to be disqualified for an incident limit penalty. With still 14 minutes to go. It's remarkable, really, remarkably impressive, but not in a good way.
Massive dive by Ray down the inside, more contact being made between these drivers. McCone there, the car ahead, just managing to hold on to that one, and Ray up to 7th place now with that position being gifted to him from Fosto, but through turn 10 needs to try and start getting some of these moves if he wants to chase down Noj. And Noj is actually only about sort of 4 or 5 seconds ahead, so it's not really going to be able to catch, but maybe some of these places could be up for grabs if Noj starts to make any mistakes, but that is certainly a difficult task now for Ray to come back from.
Certainly is. I think the 3 Hungarians are gone up the front of the field. I think they are at home and dry now. It's just a case of which of the 3 is it going to be. Danes leads right now. Farkas and Noj still have a great chance of winning, though. Between the rest, they're scrapping for places, and Sebastian Rear needs everything he can. It doesn't really matter whether he finishes 4th or 5th, because in either situation, Baujas Noj with a 2nd or 1st will still beat him, whether he's 4th or 5th, so it doesn't really matter. He just needs to be inside the top 5 right now, and he's only 2 positions away from that in the background.
Yeah, it's looking like it's working out for some of these drivers as the race continues. Of course, we'll have to try and work out any position changes and what that means for this championship. But Danes, one thing that he's only thinking about really at this moment is winning this race. And of course, the championship positions will come after with that. Doing a good job of it at this moment in time. Farkas did momentarily get the lead a few laps ago, but gave the position back after just doing a little bit too much contact to complete that overtake, and it has stayed status quo between these top 3 pretty much throughout the race. But they have been batting a lot, and it looks like Noj is more struggling than Farkas to stay up with this leader's pace, but Noj is certainly there if these 2 have any sort of issues.
Absolutely. Noj just giving himself that little bit of safety space almost, it looks like right now, because he knows that 3rd place will be enough, but I wouldn't want to fall too far away, because it might not be, as Denez certainly went wide there. It's the first mistake we've really seen him make all race, and Farkas is not going to let this one go unpunished. Outside line around the kick is not always the best place to be. He's nearly in the wall. These cars not particularly great at high speed around there, and that kick really does have to be thought about. Farkas now will eventually get to the outside line. He's still got a run here. Let's see if he can do it into the centre S. It's going to be tight. He's going to give himself the inside for turn 2. And I think Denez has just let him go through with that one, with the aim of coming back at him at turn 4.
Well, Farkas does go wide through turn 2. That could be the run from the outside for Denez to come back. He's got the racing line into turn 4, but we know Farkas loves the brakes here. Any more contact between these two coming up? We're about to find out. They are under the brakes now, and they turn into turn 4, but Denez somehow holds on to that with the run out of turn 4. Farkas once again trying to go through at turn 1 and 2, but then losing it down to turn 4. So maybe turn 4 in the future is the place that he needs to try and overtake.
Yeah, maybe it is. It's a difficult one to weigh up. I think these drivers are not going through with this one with a load of thought at the moment, and they're just trying to make overtakes when and where they can. There's not too much actual decision making behind them at the moment. I think partly though that mistake Zheng Xiao from Denez in that previous lap certainly contributed to that battle, because otherwise the three of them wouldn't really be going side by side all that much, I wouldn't imagine. Although Farkas is looking pretty threatening right now. He tends to go very wide through turn 11 for whatever reason, and then for the final corner he gets things back under control again. He's certainly close enough to have another go this lap.
Yeah, that was a nice run. As we come up the hill for Farkas, is he going to look once again in towards turn 1 and 2? He's done it a few times, but hasn't been able to complete it. 10 minutes to go now as we cross the line. Just 10 minutes to go in this season. And who is going to win this final race? Farkas to the outside once again, as he was on the previous lap. But is he going to slot in? Yes, he does. In towards turn 1 and 2. He's going to try and get the run this time. Try and use that momentum that we've seen work so well through the curve of the soul, out onto the run, down to turn 4. Is there going to be any slipstream, any sort of momentum that he can use to get up the inside? Potentially, we've seen him. No defense from Denez. Interestingly, coming towards turn 4, Farkas thinking about it, lunges it down the inside, side by side on the apex between the two. Farkas trying to take the lead full real this time, and he manages to do so, but Denez comes back up the hill.
And there's not going to be any respite up towards Ferradura as well. Here comes Denez, does he? Or will it be Nodge on the outside line? Side by side. Oh, it's all very close. Up onto the grass, up on the curve for Denez. Nodge tries to get involved. He has a big slide of his own. There's more contact. Final third of this race. The three of them, the agreement between the three of them beginning to break down a little bit. They're all starting to fight. And Farkas leads now, but for how much longer will that one last? And will they even take each other off before the end of this race?
It's crazy how many opportunities Nodge has had to make some of these places, but he hasn't. He's just sat there in third place the whole time, and the three actually separate quite a bit through sector 3, but now close up in towards that braking zone, of course. But Farkas actually has a few tenths gap, 4 tenths as we come up the hill. Does Denez have enough to come back from this, or was this gap, this group staying so close because Denez may be slightly slower out of the 3? We are about to find out, as there's now 8.5 minutes to go in the race, so just a handful of laps to come to the end of this season. Farkas does take the lead. He holds on to it for a lap now, and let's see if Denez can come back. They get closer and closer once again through turn 1 and 2, and Denez actually closed up so much there in the braking zone. He might have an opportunity down towards turn 4.
It wasn't a great run through the centre S's there for Farkas, not even on the way in, the way through, or the way out. He got it all wrong, and so Denez is going to be pressuring here. Will he make a move inside at turn 4? There's not quite the room to have a go there. He's stayed behind for now. Meanwhile, by the way, it's impossible to know where to look really, because the battle for 4th place is on at the moment, and maybe the reason that Nodge is not going for this right now is because he knows he doesn't have to. Sebastian Rear still 7th place, as these two, Farkas and Denez, still fight for the win between themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point indeed. Nodge maybe playing it that little bit more safe, having those extra few percentages of safety factor in his thinking when it comes to these battles, because as you say, 3rd place should be enough as it stands, but we will have to see if Ray can do any sort of progress to try and overturn that in these final few laps of the race. And Denez there in that 2nd place now, starting to lose ground once again in this middle part of the lap. But will he close up in Sector 3 as he did last time? Farkash seems to pull away a little bit over the course, but he does struggle in the turn 1, 2, 3 section of the lap, and that could be potentially where Dines is going to get some time back. But Noj is actually really the one to be potentially making a move up into turn 1, getting the slipstream, getting closer and closer. In fact, is Noj going to be making a move for second place? Goes to the outside now, gets a little bit of slipstream as well to help in towards the braking zone on the outside, but actually it's going to be Dines who brakes later and holds on.
He doesn't want any part of this, really. He does not want to be part of this, does Noj, because he knows that he is in a situation that that is absolutely fine for the moment. Sebastian Rey is still not really able to get anywhere near the likes of Popov or McConin, who have spent most of this race fighting between themselves. But there's 6 minutes to go, and the German is going to have to try and get involved himself somehow, as that was contact. And S goes too deep into the braking zone. Farkash pushed ever so slightly wide, and the three of them stay absolutely glued together, as they do in the battle for fourth as well. It's a really interesting race and hanging in the balance with 6 minutes to go.
What did we see with Fosto about 10 minutes ago now? Getting a DQ for too many incident points, and these guys have also been bumping and barging quite a lot. That would be a very interesting way to finish this season if in the last 5.5 minutes we see any of these drivers get close to that incident limit. Of course, with going off track, a couple of corners here being quite important as well, potentially for that points limit. Certainly something to think about with all the contact that we've been seeing. These cars do allow it a little bit more, it's just common knowledge in that way, but of course incidents still count with that. Top three still continue their way and are still in the same order as they were a couple of laps ago. They start to just spread out a little bit as we come up towards the start finish line. Maybe starting to stretch the gap is Farkash. He did have a bigger gap though than he did the last lap. It was 5/10 last lap, now down to almost 3/10 into turn 1.
Yeah, very close, and here is the fight for fourth place. Rear still staying out of it. Popov goes down the inside of Petter Daniel. Haven't seen that for a while. It's been between McConin and Popov for the most part. Daniel gives that little bit of room into turn 1, and here comes everyone. McConin going to try and get through on Popov, who just slots into line and makes sure that doesn't happen. The fight for fourth place could even be 3 wide by the time we get down to turn 4 here. We'll see if McConin forces the issue. It doesn't look like he's going to. Popov to the outside line. And there goes McConin. He's going to slot his car right into that gap. Inside line at turn 4. Here's Sebastian Rey as well, who's going to be here very soon. Petter Daniel still on the defensive. Can't get away despite the fighting. Almost 3 wide into Ferradura. That was all very close. McConin might finally have the chance to go through here on the outside line. Of Popov again. And they take each other off. Sebastian Rey goes through on both of them. And suddenly he's in a championship winning position.
And this is the type of thing that Ray was just waiting for at the back of this pack, and McConin and Popov there potentially helping him in that fact. And also Ray now has the opportunity to get up into 4th place, so that could be big championship implications with just a couple of laps to go. Now Noj needs to try and make some moves potentially to get up, maybe even to a race victory, to try and just settle the championship from his side of things. But Ray there is going to be loving that one. 2 places gained in just really the matter of sitting and waiting.
And Petter Daniel there went wide at Sun Shao, I'm sure of it. And so Sebastian Rey is going to be right on the back here. He's going to try and get through. It could even be at 2 laps to go here, maybe 3. We'll wait and see on that, but there's not long to go for Bowser's Noj, and he'll know what's up now. Sebastian Rey is trying to look to the inside, to the outside as well, trying to go through on Petter Daniel. Outside line at turn 1, he's very wide, and has he just thrown it all away? Popov's going to get a great run out of turn 2. He's going to be outside of turn 3, and Rey is down to 6th place.
And that is going to be crucial, because now he wouldn't be winning the championship, and McConin is also getting the run. Ray tried to go for it and tried to seal the deal, but in fact he might have actually just lost it, as Popov gets a huge run there in towards turn 4. Ray so late on the brakes, contact almost with Popov. Don't throw away even more, as McConin is all over the back, as Daniel's still holding on to this 4th place. Popov looking very aggressive this race so far, as we know, but Ray needs to try and get that position, even those 2 positions back, because if it's one place ahead, he will be tied with points, which would potentially be enough. But as we see now, Popov up the inside, more contact between the two as Daniel goes down into 5th.
Yeah, big implications right now. Just to reiterate, Rear needs a top 5 here, but if Bowser's Notch finishes in the top 2, there's nothing that Rear can do from this group. Dives down the inside at turn 10, big contact with Petter Daniel. He's on the outside for turn 11. He's not going to get much space out there, and McConan might try and get his way through here as well. Into Zhun Zhao, the final corner. Sebastian Rear backs out of it there. He pushes Petter Daniel through it, and all 4 of these drivers are going to be on top of each other towards turn 1.
They certainly are, and it is getting closer and closer towards the end of this race. Just 1 minute 45 to go, and it is getting very tight in the championship. A couple of laps to go in the season. Let's see what Daniel Popov can do. Coming towards turn 1, Popov holding it down the inside, and we're seeing Daniel trying to make a move round the outside of turn number 1. Can Popov hold onto it up the inside? Yes, he can, as Ray's also trying to get a bit of a run from this one, but is he close enough? Maybe potentially not. It's going to be Daniel actually getting the run out towards turn 4. Popov holding on to it in that 4th place as it stands. McConan trying to push Sebastian Ray towards this battle as well. Can Popov hold on to it on the brakes like we've seen a few times around? I think he can. Might just do as we get towards the final minute of the championship.
Well, McConan's around the outside there, but no space given by Sebastian Ray. Not playing any games here, not taking any prisoners either, as Popov is going to try and hold on from Petter Daniel here. Will this open the door once again for the German to step through into a championship winning position? A 5th place would tie him with Bowser's Notch, and because of his race win at Daytona, he would win on countback. Side by side for 4th place, he's going to get involved with that. I think this is the penultimate lap. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is going to be the penultimate lap. He might have one more after this, but it really is last couple of chances here for Rio, who's down the inside at turn 10.
And that could be a big move, but once again it goes to the outside now on Magulio, and that's not the place that you want to be. He's going to have to try and do the switchback up the inside of the final corner. 20 seconds to go. Is there going to be just one more lap for the leaders? We're about to find out up towards the start finish line. Sebastian Ray in 6th place. He needs this. 5th place. 10 seconds to go. And is there going to be another lap with where the leaders are? Dinez leading away from Farkash as it stands with just 4 seconds. It looks like we might just be there, heading on to another lap. Sebastian Ray's been gifted the chance by a couple of seconds. He now knows he needs to get this 5th place up towards the braking zone, diving it up towards the inside of turn 1, around the outside of the building. Who's going to come out on top? Sebastian Ray slides through turn 1, comes through turn 2. This could be his opportunity.
It certainly is. Daniel's on the outside line. He's going to try and push Daniel around the outside of Popov here. McConan's going to try and get through as well. He's looking to fight his own chances. There's 4 of them side by side, 2 wide, 2 deep at the moment, in towards turn number 4. He's going to break early and hope they all crash into each other, but they certainly haven't. Popov goes deep. Petter Daniel comes through. McConan's going to try and do the same, but Sebastian Rea has put himself to the back of this group now, and he needs to gain 2 positions on this final lap. And the odds are stacking against him with every corner that goes by.
And this is so tense as well because all the drivers ahead of him, they're such aggressive drivers. And now Dinez is battling with Farkash. Final lap of the race, final lap of the season for these people. Who is going to get the final win? Let's find out in this final sector that is about to come up. Dinez holds on to it for now. Farkash obviously led for so long but has lost the lead to Dinez, who's going to be leading up towards the final corner. And who is going to get the better run? Any sort of slipstream games up towards the line. Let's find out. That is not the best run though. Out to the final corner. Farkash is going to get the run. Is there enough time? Is there enough slipstream for him to get his car ahead? Side by side, the two are going to go towards the start-finish line, but actually no, it's going to be Dinez holding on here at Interlagos for the final victory of the season, but Farkash getting closer and closer, but is it enough? Not quite enough. Dinez takes the victory, Farkash in second and Noj in third, but is that enough for Noj to hold on? It is going to be as Sebastian Ray drops down to 7th place on the final lap, the final couple of laps of the race. He had the opportunity in his hands, but unfortunately it's just going to fall short, and it is going to be Noj leading the way in the championship here for the WTCR Trophy of Season 2 of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship for 2022. What a battle those guys have put out on track, and Ray just in such a difficult position couldn't make it count.
Not quite. Not quite. It's 7th place in the end for Sebastian Ray. He loses 10 points to Bausas Norza with only a 6-point championship lead heading into today. He's lost the championship by 4 points. What a championship finale though. What a race to end this one off. Sebastian Ray obviously will be replaying those final laps in his head, wondering what on earth he could have done different to try and take that one, but in the end it wasn't enough.
Yeah, that was a great battle between the front three as well. Denez and Farkash changed places multiple times. Farkash in the end getting caught and overtaken by Denez there in the final moments of the race, which is obviously a heartbreak for him. Farkash had such a good season, started with the race victory, of course, back at the Hockenheim ring, and unfortunately couldn't keep a championship run going, but still a very positive season. So look for Farkash to come back potentially if these cars are kept in the future, of course. And then we get Daniel there in 4th place. He had a great race today, along with Mukonin and Popov, really putting their names forward as well. Popov 5th in the championship coming into this race as well. Really tried to make up some positions, but unfortunately finishing 6th place in the end. And Sebastian Rea there, 7th place. He needed 5th. 2 places short for the championship, and will be losing that to the Balashnosh there, who of course finished in 3rd place overall. And here come the remaining drivers, who unfortunately we couldn't get to, but there's a lot of green numbers there, so certainly lots of places being done, a lot of changes in the order. And Ewan, as always, the WTCR is just offering such good racing, even on some more tight and twisty tracks like this.
Absolutely. What a fantastic race that was. I mentioned it earlier, but wasn't expecting too much from the examples of the Hockenheim and Interlagos races in this championship with the WTCR cars, but they've absolutely both delivered in spades for us. Absolutely fantastic races to watch. A great championship as well. The best championship finale I think we've seen in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship over season 1 and 2. I know we had great drama at the end of season 1, particularly in the rookie championship, but even so, this one was by far the best, in my opinion, in terms of drama. And how about the coolness as well of Balashnosh to just calmly stay in 3rd place, even though Sebastian Rea basically had the championship in his own hands. He had his destiny in his own hands, and Balashnosh wasn't moved. He didn't want to challenge for the top 2 because he didn't want to throw it all away. And I've got to say that the coolness and calmness from him to do that all race was absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, Ray was in a difficult position though, but then of course he put himself in that position by not qualifying quite as high as he would have liked to. But certainly it is difficult when you're fighting for championships. Any sim racer who would have who'd been in a similar situation, it is so hard to get that close. It is so just so difficult to be just that 1 car length away pretty much from getting a victory. But certainly a really nice way to end the season, and hopefully we can see more of this action next season.
Yes, absolutely. It's been absolutely fantastic. But of course, this was not the first of the exciting championship finales we have seen this week. Just last night we had the F4 race, as we normally do, and heading into the final race, Bo Dixon and Enzo Filippo were very, very close indeed. So let's see how their finale at Interlagos panned out last night.
Highlights from the season finale in the Formula 4 Rookie Cup would get to a bad start for Villa Cravey straight away. A jump start from 3rd position in that blue car. Meanwhile, the top 2 in the championship would battle it down in the first corner. Around the outside of that first turn, Enzo Filippo would go. The inside for the second part of the Centre-S, and the outside all the way around Curva de Sol. Onto the Retro Aposta and down towards Desquido de Largo. It was the move around the outside, but a bit of contact from Bo Dixon, who was on his inside, that would create a 3-wide bit of action off of the corner. It would be Sven Mackenberg to the outside, Schott getting to the inside, trying to find his way through, and Enzo Filippo would hang on to second. Schott with the inside line, trying to get past Sven Mackenberg immediately, would have to go around the outside of the long left-hander. He wouldn't be able to do so. Sven Mackenberg would be able to hang on. Meanwhile, his brother Marvin Mackenberg was coming into a few troubles, and he would be spun around down towards the back of the pack. He would go. A bit of a mistake from Sven Mackenberg out wide coming out of the final real corner at Jun Chao, and he would lose the position to Schott, who would get his way up into 3rd. The top 2 were clearing away. Looking back from Villa Cravey, you get a little bit of a tap on the rear end from Kuznar, who would go for a spin, dropping down the hill, literally ping-pong into everyone, unable to hold the brakes, and everyone was making contact. Enzo Filippo was going for the race lead, though. He'd get to the inside, coming around Ferradura, it would just give him the inside for the braking zone coming into the 7th corner on the circuit, and he would take over the race lead from Bo Dixon. Towards the back end of the top 10, Hendricks was making a move on Vandenberg, got to the inside at the first part of the centre S, but then Vandenberg made it stick through the second. At the back end of this, Schubeck, who we're on board with here, would pick up 2 positions in one corner. Hendricks out wide going through turn 4 and 5, and then Demolke just not with a good line off of the corner, and Schubeck would pick up both. Villacravey would be into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty for jumping the race start. Meanwhile, the battle for third was getting closer and closer. Sven Mackenberg all over the rear end of Schott. Still no way to make his pass. Around the outside of turn 4, as they would race their way off the corner, Schott would roll his way out towards the white line and stop the potential position loss. The race lead was also extremely close. Bo Dixon on the rear end of Enzo Filipao. No way for him to make a move stick at the moment. Halfway through the race and still just sat to the rear end. Someone who wasn't content with sitting there, Sven Mackenberg once again to the outside of Schott, both of them running wide going through to Skida de Largo, and another attempt of a move going down into that corner into turn 4 was Bo Dixon finally having a bit of a look down to the inside. Enzo Filipao though with a superior line, superior traction, superior speed, and would hang on to the race lead. Ward was trying to grab a position inside the top 10 off of Schieferdecker, would look to the inside in through the first corner. There'd be contact between the two. It would allow Borzok to come through, as well as the recovering Marvin Mackenberg and Renault, who had a poor qualifying session, and so that was the issue for Ward. Back up to the battle for the podium, the inside line being taken by Sven Mackenberg, but these two between Mackenberg and Schott, they were side by side through the entirety of the central section of the Interlagos circuit. An absolutely brilliant display of racecraft, but Schott was still able to hang on. A bit of a mistake from Guides going into the final real corner at Junchao. He'd go for a spin, would lose out a couple of spots. Speaking of good racing, there was this between Schubeck and Vandenberg. A little bit of side-by-side with the up and under from Schubeck to pick up the spot. They'd both get past Guides, who was having that spin directly ahead, but Vandenberg was trying to fight for it back. A bit further down the order, Schieferdecker was trying to grab back inside the top 10 with a move down the inside of Borzok, but unfortunately he would go for a spin. Meanwhile, for the podium, it was all starting to heat up. Shot out massively wide in the braking zone. Would get back to the inside of Sven Mackenberg. The battle for third was firing all cylinders, and then watch this from Schott around the outside, locking the rears, almost a proper karting move to take back third position. The drag race to the line between Bo Dixon and Enzo Filipao would go finally the way of Filipao, who would take his first victory of the season.
There it was, the final race of the F4 Championship took, in the end, or the championship at least, took by Bo Dixon by just 2.4 points ahead of Enzo Filipao. A great championship finale, and the man with the voice behind those highlights, Lewis McGlade, joining me, Ewan O'Leary now. And yeah, I've very much enjoyed this week of racing so far, Lewis. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, to have two championships coming down to such tight margins there. An incredible load of fun through the championship thus far. And I will say, for the Formula 4 rookies, the highlights that we just saw there definitely come down to such a tiny margin between Bo Dixon and Enzo Filipao. The two of them were separated by very little throughout the season. Of course, a victory to Bo Dixon back in the first round and the second round of the championship. In the first round, straight over Enzo Filipao. Of course, when we got things going such a long time ago, it feels now, but it's been such a short championship. It's all been flying by and also quite long at the same time, but a well-deserved championship for Bo Dixon. This one, though, we kind of said before, as we focus to the GT3 Pro Series, the focus really is on Pfeiffer, who's taken 3 consecutive victories. Of course, was effectively gifted that one last round, wasn't he, against Cody Nikola Latkovsky, who had a penalty as he came across the line. Pfeiffer with those 3 consecutive victories. Vermeulen's the only one who's close enough, but with a second and then 2 third place finishes, he is 26 points off. That's quite a large margin.
It is quite a large margin. Luciano Vitfer is mathematically in contention as well, but realistically, we can count him out, I feel, in this one, unless the top 2 have disasters. Max Pfeiffer, though, all he needs to do is finish inside the top 10 here in this race to be crowned champion. I guess top 11 as well. He's got the race wins to win on countback as well, hasn't he? So he doesn't need to do a lot, in all honesty. But given the fact he's won 5 out of the 7 GT3 races we've had in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship so far, I think he's going to want to keep that percentage high, and he's going to want to take 6 out of 8.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, I'd certainly, I wouldn't say no to it. I think realistically, though, he just needs to focus. If this were a standard championship, we'd be talking about all he's going to do is focus on finishing inside the top 10, focus on this, focus on that. No, he has come here to win this race, and we know that will be the pure focus from him is to come into this. He's still with his trusty Bentley as well. Obviously, with how the BOP changes, or the BOP is in this, sometimes some of the drivers will switch cars round to round. We've seen this from quite a few who will literally be changing car every single time we go racing. Luciano Vitford, I'm pretty sure, has changed most of the rounds this year. Max Pfeiffer, though, at least the last few, has just stuck with that Bentley, which is kind of good. It's, stick with what you know.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, really, because you kind of get familiar with the same machinery, and you're not jumping around all the time. You can get a lot better at that singular car than the other drivers will be. That jumping around a lot. They've got to get familiar with the car first of all before they start to get familiar with the circuit, and then what strategy they're going to employ throughout the race as well. So it does kind of eliminate that kind of familiarity with the car ambiguity that some of these drivers will actually have in these races, which is an interesting toss-up really in terms of when you're organising a championship, whether you let the drivers choose which car they want at the start of each race or not. It's an interesting dilemma, and I think it's good to allow them to choose. It gives sort of an extra layer to all of the racing, even if it does make it a bit more difficult for us to keep track of. Maybe it does add a layer of complication to all of the drivers when they're preparing for one of these races.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of open. I've said before, when it comes to these kind of championships, where there is room in sim racing for championships where you lock in your car straight away, and then some way you keep it more open. More than happy with it. Here's the man himself. Pfeiffer. Qualifying is underway, and much like what we saw in the WTCR Trophy, it is a private qualifying session, which is, some of the drivers might actually be a little bit of a shock because it should be open, but it is a private qualifying session. So you get the track basically to yourself, which I know you haven't done too much sim racing. You're not trying to throw you under the bus there, sorry. Sometimes that adds a little more pressure because it's you in the circuit, which means which is such a sim racing thing. You've got no one else to blame. You can't go, I missed 2 tenths in that section because there was this guy that got in my way and there was distraction off in the distance and there was this, that and the other. There's none of that. It's you and the track, and that's it. Focus on the lap times.
Well, yeah, true, but you don't have all the time in the world, so there is time pressure there. It's not as if all of the pressure of the qualifying session has been eliminated from these drivers because it is private. There is still certainly something there, but it is certainly a little bit less, as you say. I mean, I would certainly prefer an open qualifying session. I think it adds a little bit of a layer in terms of trying to find the track space, especially around here. We're only 1 minute 30 lap times around here. It's not exactly the longest circuit in the world, so I think it's nice to sort of have everybody out there together, battling for position on the road and trying to find that free track space. But even so, as you say, it really is driver and car and track, with no other added complications, which just maybe projects a fairer reflection of where these drivers actually are at the end of this session.
Yeah, potentially so. Well, as we have got those first few lap times in, Yuval Rosen is actually on the provisional pole position, and to be fair, I quite like that because Rosen's obviously one who had some bad luck in the first round of their championship, has had a little bit throughout the season, but more so last round had a disconnection from the race lead. Or at least, no, it was from the race lead, wasn't it? If not, I think it might have been in second place at this point. But either way, he had a disconnection whilst he was up there battling for it. And so for Yuval Rosen to be up there on pole position. In fact, actually, back in Hockenheim, I'm pretty sure had a jump start. So, bad luck made by himself, that's fine. Either way, it will be on this provisional pole position. Got a lot of pressure on his shoulders from the likes of Pfeiffer and Vermeulen, obviously battling over the championship, whether they're too focused on that or just literally eyes on the race victory. We'll have to wait and see. Tight margins between those lot. But still, the rest of them in the field, the first couple of laps, I don't think anyone's particularly nailed it. Well, there goes Pfeiffer.
Well, yeah, there's still maybe time left in this one because you can see here from Vermeulen as well. He's also improving right now. But yeah, it is great to see Rosen up there. And for a driver of his talent that he's clearly showing right now, for him to have not had a top 20 finish yet this season is quite remarkable. As you say, bad luck or bad driving, you make your mind up on occasion. Of course, the disconnect, not his fault at all. Yeah, a bit of bad luck in there. But yeah, nice lap time there from Axel Vermeulen, doing all he can at this stage. He's just displaced Max Pfeiffer there ever so briefly, but we'll see which out of the two of them is going to get pole. It's certainly developing into a top 3 situation in terms of who's going to get pole here.
This driver just moved up into what was 4th position before Rui Felipe improved and got up into that 4th place. Blankenberg up in 5th. Well, I think there's livery. I know obviously they don't get to design liveries and whatnot. Typically on this field, obviously they can do in the ADAC GT Masters, DTM Esports, and the upcoming WTCR Esports, I believe they'll be able to. But don't want to talk about that one too much, purely because I think that might be just throwing some people under the bus when it comes to that. We'll deal with that one later. But we've got obviously some custom liveries out on the platform. Some of the teams. This isn't one of them. It does look quite good. Tour Esports are one that have got plenty of custom liveries on, although none being driven by this man here because he's in his own little car, as Pfeiffer will cross the line and move his way up back onto pole position.
Yeah, once again, 82 thousandths of a second quicker than Vermeulen. That time, Blankenberg over the line again, been gradually pushed outside the top 5 on this most recent moments, and just over the halfway mark in this session now. He's setting himself up for another lap, but that's not gone particularly well through turn 1 or 2. Sliding absolutely all over the place, which is something you don't often see in this category of car. Blankenberg finally straightens himself out and is on the run down towards turn 4 now. I'm pretty sure he will have lost a bit of time there, though, and already 3.5 attempts down.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4.5 minutes left of the session, and we've said this before, is that when that timer hits 0, your session's done. I don't understand why with that turn 1, you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to keep going. The escape key would be hit way before I'd hit that second apex. Just because let's just get this one restart. Let's get straight on it, because you would be wasting time in that scenario. For me, it's a little bit too much. Speaking of too much, Kulas out way too wide, coming through Yun Sao at the final real corner of the circuit. I think it's still all right, but we'll certainly lose time and taking way too much curb coming up through the back end of the track as well. Not looking like an ideal lap from the pole. He'll cross the line. I'm pretty sure that was going to happen. I'm pretty sure there was never going to be an improvement on that lap time. The final sector there just looked very, very messy. Back with Evil Rosen, of course, has been on provisional pole in this session. Not looking like there is any real improvement from the Israeli driver.
Yeah, it's not looking like anything special here, I'm afraid, but he's just setting himself up for another attempt at this in the best performing Corvette so far. Half a second down there, you can see. That lap time still would have been good enough for a top position on the first 2 rows, I believe, but not good enough to improve his actual position right now. We'll have 2 more attempts, though, at this one and the next one, for him to get onto that front row. It is looking difficult to break into that, though, with once again Pfeiffer and Vermeulen absolutely dominating there. He has gone faster in the first sector, though, Rosen. Maybe there will be a surprise in store.
Certainly going faster than Max Pfeiffer, who's just come through the first sector. What would be about 700ths slower than what Evil Rosen is presently doing. Going through Ferradura up towards this really, really tight section. I mean, I really like this section. Some people don't, although I will say that is way too much curve at T7. Back up towards Biga Tapato, which is a great overtaking opportunity if you are brave. Meanwhile, when you're driving it by yourself, it's so easy to miss that apex time and time again. Down the hill, it just completely drops away from you. Back up the hill ever so slightly towards Yun Sao. Again, big kick of oversteer, losing a bit of time in that second sector. It still could be an improvement. I'm not thinking it's going to be a great lap time from Yuva Rosen. I will say, though, he's come under pressure a little bit by Mariusz Zabdir, who's got up into 4th position. And I will say, with that time from Zabdir, he's done a great job to get 2,000 a second faster than Rui Felipe, but also to have that podium last round. I know it was kind of given to him in the end, but he was still battling for the victory on that race down towards the line.
Yeah, still very much up there as Pfeiffer just goes that little bit quicker as well with a purple first couple of sectors. Wasn't quite good as good in the final sector there, but he does improve just that little bit. Yeah, some good performances from a number of drivers, though. Of course, at Daytona, we got Pfeiffer and Vermeulen on the podium, as you'd expect. But you're right, Zabdir with that second place with a nice performance. Vitvert on the podium, in 4th place I should say, as well. So, a number of possible surprises. Doesn't look like Luciano Vitford is on the grid here today. He is, sorry, 4th place. Back where he was last week, 3 weeks ago, I should say. I'm struggling to read, but we're getting over that. Final moments of this qualifying session coming up, and I'd be surprised if there are any major shocks on that first couple of rows.
No, right now. I mean, to be fair, there is probably about 10 drivers that I genuinely wouldn't be shocked to see on those front 2 rows. It's normally how it goes with these kind of things. Right now, I'd be like, you've Rosen and Luciano have been on that second row. Makes about sense, but then Zabdir, Felipe, Blankenberg, Stredemans, all these. Yeah, I could see them on there. The session is done for Blankenberg. He will be out of this qualifying session. 8th is as good as it will get, with only 28 seconds left in it. For Milan, though, coming up towards that final corner, 22 seconds left to go in the session, will just about get through to the line. Now, as much as these qualifying results have popped up, this session is still live. There is 13 seconds left to go. Will this actually be an improvement to pole position for Vermeulen? He'll cross over it. We'll see if it switches over. Right now, he improves by 0.05 of a second, but it is still second place. Pfeiffer will start from pole position with Rosen, Vitford, Zabdir, Felipe, Kunze, Blankenberg, Stredemans and Brown, the top 10, as you'll see the rest of the results coming through. But Pfeiffer on pole position, looking to make it 4 from 4 in Season 2 of 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. The perfect season. We nearly saw Ilya Drobosnikov do that in the Rookie Championship last season, in Season 1. Wasn't able to convert that with a disaster on the final day. Ended up losing the championship, I believe, on the final day there. So we haven't seen a perfect season from anybody in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship. Max Pfeiffer has got an unprecedented opportunity to do that here. Of course, only needs a top 11 place finish to win this championship, but that'll be in the back of his mind. He mentioned it earlier on. Normally, we would be thinking about that championship leader just doing what they need to do and getting through this race, but Pfeiffer's going to be pushing on for this race win. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it's an hour-long race. There's a pit stop. What are we expecting, at least over the first few laps here?
Well, I'm expecting things to calm down pretty quickly, but as things get later on, and as people get a bit more desperate to make up the positions that they want, I feel like, we could see a slow amping up of the action, but who knows? We could see a very chaotic start.
Well, as the timer is ticking down, the gridding process is complete. Pfeiffer will start from pole position. Vermeulen alongside in that front row. It's the season finale in the GT3 Pro Series, and it is Pfeiffer looking to take victory. We head to Interlagos. We head to the final round of the season. We put an hour onto the clock, and we're underway with that run down towards the first corner. I think it's a better launch from Vermeulen, though, on the front row of the grid. He's already making his way up the order, as is Rue Felipe, straight up in the 3rd position, down the inside of Yuval Rosen. Vermeulen takes over the race lead. Max Pfeiffer drops back, but with the cutback, he's going to go all the way around the outside of T3, potentially, maybe taking over the race lead once again on the race down towards Desquida de Largue.
It's such an important launch off the line here with the uphill start, and Vermeulen nailed that. Inside line at turn 4 is going to give him the lead again, but Pfeiffer might just do the crisscross as he did on the first corner. He actually went around the outside there, or tried to. Vermeulen shoved him out wide. The Bentley wasn't able to get through. Rue Felipe with a great start there into 3rd place. Such an important launch off the line here, and some of them have made great use of that.
Yellow flag out in the opening part of the race because of Lukic, Florian Arendt, as well as Martin Prinder, all having a few issues on the first lap of this race. Here is Zabdir, of course, on the podium in the previous race, the championship, moving over into the Callaway. Whoa, look at that for a big send from Yuval Rosen. That was the 3rd spot. The up and under's going to work straight away from the Portuguese driver of Rui Felipe. Wow, that was an insane send in a big end of power. I said it was an overtaking opportunity. I wasn't quite meaning it like that.
And he's doing it again into the final corner, which is possibly one of the worst places to try and make a move, because it ruins your run all the way uphill here and on the straight as well towards the centre S. So Zabdir is going to be all too happy to capitalise on that one, and he goes up to 4th place now. Luciano Vitford is not quite close enough to capitalise, I don't think, himself. and they're going to stay single file, but not particularly smart there from Rosen to try and make the move at the final corner, I don't think.
No, this is going to be. I'm getting the feeling this is going to be a bit crazy in this pack here. Whether they're going to allow the top two to clear away depends on how much they battle right now. Whether Pfeiffer fancies battling immediately with Vermeulen. Well, they're back on that run down towards turn 4. Vermeulen holding the defensive line. I was watching him do that going down into turn 1 as well. The up and under once again from that big Bentley on the inside through T5. This will be a big lift. He can get it to the outside of Ferradura. They're going to run side by side. Vermeulen on the right hand side on the inside run through the corner, straight around the outside. Is he going to make it? One apex done, second apex done. Can he do it for the third consecutive corner? Not quite. I think Ferrari and Vermeulen might just hang on, but no, Pfeiffer's done it. Sweeps around the outside. He's got the inside line as they head through the central part of the lap, and Pfeiffer might just take the race lead. They're going to remain side by side in this central section. I don't think this is the only time we're going to see this race. Vermeulen and Pfeiffer continue.
When is this going to end? Still side by side through 11 now, and Pfeiffer just lifts off there to make sure Vermeulen's got some space on the outside, and he's got a compromised line to jump down now, although Vermeulen didn't make very good use of it. He could have gone for the over and under there and gotten a better run up the hill, but he really didn't make very good use of that better line at all. And now Rui Felipe's here as well. The three of them slipstreaming off from one another. Pfeiffer's going to hold the lead into turn 1 here, but slipstream powerful again for the Ferrari. Will Vermeulen look to the inside here? I think he's going to, well, no, he's going to dive it. Wow, how far back did he come from there? That was a real dive. Still side by side again between the two.
Yeah, this might get a bit exhausting for our voice if we see this team lead times. Active Vermeulen then retakes over the race lead in the season finale. Pfeiffer and Felipe remain in that lead battle. Once again, defensive from Vermeulen. Of course, in the previous lap, Yuval Rosen's had some issues. Bit of a squeeze there from Vermeulen, just pushing over. I mean, hey, I will say one thing. We might see a DQ between these lot if they're going to race that hard. They might breach the incident points. Vermeulen then will take over the race lead. Felipe up in the second after that squeezing off. Pfeiffer drops down to third. He might need to play the longer game just a touch in that one. But as I was saying, Yuval Rosen drops back to 14th. Rokas to be having some issues. Same with Zabdir, 27th and 28th. So there's clearly some large issues directly behind this through the central part of the previous lap.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very chaotic behind this and quite interesting up front here as well. Side by side between Vermeulen and Pfeiffer for almost an entire lap there. It was remarkable to see, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see just how Rosen ended up back here, down in 14th at the minute, I should say, and surprised to see, but he was being very aggressive on that start. I wonder if that just came back to bite him a little bit.
Well, you'll have to catch the highlights when they come out, which, based on how this race has unfolded in the first 4 minutes and 40 seconds, might take the rest of my life. As we'll see a switch of position there. That was Yuval Rosen getting past Svensson. Back up towards the battle for 4th position. We've got Luciano, we've got Blankenberg, we've got Stredemans as well. There is the inside line being taken by the, sorry, that was McLaren of Kulas with Stredemans taking that defensive line going through the first corner, and Brown is just waiting off the rear end of it.
Yeah, just biding his time here and maybe looking for an opportunity. Turns out I was entirely wrong about the calm start to this race, because it's been anything but so far. The WTCR Racing clearly getting into these guys' blood as well, and they're really going for this early on. I wasn't expecting that. I thought they would kind of wait for the end of the pit stop phase and then they'd start to look where they are and start to fight like this, but it's been right from the word go so far. And unfortunately, it's bitten a few as Rui Felipe has gone, well, not off, but wide somewhere, and Max Pfeiffer has gone through almost without challenge there.
Yeah, the switch in position, obviously the three of them separated by a second. It wouldn't be something that I'd be panicked by in this battle right now. Whether it's in this battle, obviously the battle for 6th position, whether it's in the battle for 4th, whether it's in the battle for the race lead. Right now, if you go a little bit wide and you lose a couple of positions, I wouldn't worry about it too much. From what we've seen thus far, the overtaking is... easy is probably the wrong word, but possible. Very, very possible. So I wouldn't be super concerned. We're back down to Christophe Noj, who's involved in this quite large train right in the middle of it.
Yeah, this is all from Rosen in 13th place, and it goes down pretty much to 24th position at the moment. It's a very, very large train indeed. Noj right in the middle of it, but nobody really close enough to action a move there. We saw side by side between Streitmans and Brown, I think that was. Brown finally realising that there was an opportunity there when Straetmans and Kulas were battling, but couldn't really take the opportunity, and Straetmans has leapt off of that to get a good exit out of turn 3 and try and go through on Kulas there, but couldn't do it in that fight for 6th place.
Other things that are happening over the last couple of laps, I believe Rui Felipe's just losing touch to the top 2 ever so slightly. You can see there on the tower the gap growing to 9/10 of a second off the rear end of Pfeiffer. I was wondering if those top lot end up battling hard enough, if it would bring back in Luciano Wittfurt and Blankenberg as well, because Colin Blankenberg looking like he's got great pace and also playing the long game by sitting behind Luciano Wittfurt, not trying to make any moves as such just yet. So potentially might extend, but they might end up challenging for the final step on the podium a little bit later on. Of course, we will remind you that in the middle half of this race, between minute 45 left to go and minute 15 left to go, there is a pit stop window open, a mandatory pit stop where they must come in, they must change tyres, they must do a couple of little bits in the pit lane before they can continue on the race. Everyone will do it, with being mandatory, weirdly enough. And so we'll see them all come down. We did see, particularly at Daytona, that played a key factor in getting Pfeiffer involved back in the race lead and ended up winning the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong, I would describe that as a middle third, not a middle half.
No, it's the middle half, because it's between 45 minutes left to go and 15 minutes left to go. That's half of the race. You pipe down.
No,
sir.
sorry, I misremembered. So there we are.
But about to have a fight in the corner. By the way, there's battle for the race lead because Pfeiffer's, I think, just got there to go and attack for Malin. So he's got to the inside coming off of T5. Whilst we're fighting in the commentary booth, they're fighting on the track. Pfeiffer back to the outside. Whoa, big kick of oversteer there from Vermeulen.
Yeah, Pfeiffer really squeezed Vermeulen there, and the Ferrari couldn't quite deal with the big oversteer through Ferradura and very nearly lost the car entirely, which would have seen both of them in the wall, quite probably. Fortunately, the Belgian held on to it, and Pfeiffer was able to take the lead there, but that was really close to disaster for the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, when you have those kind of squeezes, I mean, they do happen, particularly through Ferradura. You're aiming for that second apex. If you're taking that tighter line, you do tend to wash out wide, so there was a little bit of a brush between them. It'll happen, it'll get brushed off, fair enough, no worries. They both managed to catch good, excellent car control from Malin to be honest, to not overcorrect that, because he could have very easily overcorrected it, and there was only one place he was going to go, and it would have been straight into the side of Pfeiffer, and they would have both been spun out. Probably not out of the race, there probably wouldn't have been too much damage on them. Point was that they were taking some fairly large risks. Back down into the first corner, and Vermeulen in deep. I will say this Ferrari, whilst it does look better on the brakes comparatively to the Bentley, it does typically seem to be slightly, at least with what I'm seeing from Vermeulen, slightly more rear bias. If you're watching it down to first corner, if you're watching it down to turn 4, even up into the likes of Ferradura, the rear end is slipping and sliding a lot more in those braking zones comparatively to the Bentley he's battling.
It does look like he's got his hands full at the minute, it has to be said, and so Pfeiffer is going to know that, but he's going to be wary of the fact, as you say, that the Ferrari just seems stronger on the brakes. I don't quite know what to put that down to, whether it's simply because the Ferrari just looks lighter and smaller, I don't know, but it's better on the brakes anyhow, and Vermeulen has been using that so far to make the moves on Pfeiffer, but unlike what we've seen in some previous races where the German has just absolutely run away with it, we're not seeing that at all here in this race. We're seeing Vermeulen really closely challenge his championship rival here on this occasion. It's a slight shame that he hasn't been able to do this all season long to really give us something to shout about here in terms of a championship finale, but it's good to see that this race is developing well between the two of them out front.
Yeah, it certainly is, and developing quite well in this battle as well. 6th place, Kulas, Streulemans, Brown, Mosin, Vigneron, Parvin, all involved in this train. The Chatso's just a touch off the rear end. You can just see coming through the back end of the shot in that Red Bull-esque Ferrari. Well, that might have actually been Parvin. Parvin might actually have on the mind. I'll go back on that one. But Parvin is dragging his way back into it. Here's the move there, potentially from Streulemans. Will get to the inside of the first corner. Kulas, though, going with the pinch. There is a car there, and that's a little touch naughty from Kulas. Streulemans was trying something. He's now smashed over the curb as Kulas. Streulemans will get to the outside, and potentially Brown will be back involved in this. It could be 3 wide of a turn 3.
Does he want to? He doesn't want to force the issue though. Brown's just going to push the likely winner of that drag race there, and so Streulemans is through. Brown on the outside of Kulas, who's made his line unnecessarily narrow there, and he drifts up into the side of the Bentley out wide. and around he goes, way outside the top 10. Kulas was the architect of his own downfall there a little bit, you'd have to say.
Yeah, that was an out moment from him. That's the thing. I've been stuck in gear like that, as I'm sure everyone has heard at various points. But yes, not an ideal moment there from Kulas. He's not lost out too much, but down to 13th position. Mosen, we're focused on now, who's in the central part of this. And when you lose someone like that who's battling so hard, this could be the ticket for Stretmans to be able to clear away from this group and be able to not necessarily run up to the rear end of Blankenberg. I think there is a bit too large of a gap, even this early in the race, a bit too large of a gap up to this battle, but still get away from the fight that he's presently in. This is the battle for 4th position, Ritford versus Blankenberg.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I don't think Stretmans is going to get there without help from these two, and they're providing some of it right now. Blankenberg with a half-hearted effort to the outside there, really. He didn't really go for it. Luciano Ritford didn't have to do an awful lot to hold on to that place. So they'll remain 4th and 5th in the order they were in. I think it's in their best interest right now to work together a little bit, bring Rui Felipe into this one, and then they can fight over the bottom step of the podium, which is obviously a little bit more enticing than a fight for 4th place.
Yeah, it's like I say, everyone wants that podium fight. Luciano Ritford obviously took the podium position on the final lap of the Daytona race. It was for 4th at the time. Obviously, then there was a post-race penalty for Cody Nikola Latkovsky, who is notably absent from this round. Obviously, he hasn't done the full championship anyway. He missed the first round. But still, it would be great to see someone of Cody Nikola Latkovsky's abilities doing more of this style of racing in the future, because we do, I mean, he is an incredibly talented driver, having seen him race in plenty of the official esports championships here on RaceRoom. But you're absolutely right, Luciano Ritford will be trying to close down on Rui Felipe. I've got to say, Blankenberg's been really smart. Over what I've been seeing, Blankenberg's been playing this one really, really smart. He's been saying exactly what we've been talking about. Not really getting too involved with it. Might have been closing in there, but didn't even take a look down into turn 4. Didn't even take a look down into the first corner. Has just been sat there, has been waiting, has been using the slipstream, biding his time, and that is absolutely the smartest thing to do in this scenario. Just focus on capturing that podium rather than basically losing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult to know quite how to play it at this stage in the race, but I feel like those kind of decisions are going to get easier now as we're approaching the pit stop window, as it turns out, with 45 minutes to go. If you're stuck where you are, thinking particularly with the trains sort of outside the top 10 there, the one from 15th on back, which contains about 10 drivers, and maybe some of these inside the top 10 as well, the likes of those who are stuck behind Straightmans for now. Do you want an early pit stop to try and get out of the traffic and try and vault up the order in that way? It could be something we see employed here over the next half an hour or so, because it's for some of these drivers, they are just a bit stuck right now.
Kulas has got more problems in its again down into turn 4. That wasn't the most ideal rejoin, but he will get back going again, and now he has dropped right the way to the rear of the field. I was going to say this is the most stressful it was like 20-30 seconds that I was looking at, because I was genuinely thinking, I was like, have I remembered this wrong? Does the pit window open with 45 minutes left to go? The answer is yes. The pit window has just opened, so we are okay. It is the middle half of the race. Ewan was just trying to test my knowledge. It's fine. Everyone with a red check, as you can see. We'll see this for a fair while. A couple might come in quite early. Everyone with a red mark next to their name on the right-hand side of the town, at furthest right point. They have not come into the pit lane. It will go green once they have completed their mandatory pit stop requirement. I would suspect, at least for the first 5, maybe 10 minutes of this, pretty much everyone is going to remain red. I don't see too many people pitting this early.
Well, as you say that, Ichazo is in right now.
I said too many. It's 12. Fine. One's fine.
12 plates. So, yeah, I think you're right, especially inside the top 11 or so, 10 or 11, I would say. To be fair, I'm quite surprised Ichazo has come in, if I'm honest, because all he's going to do is end up in traffic if he's not too careful. I think he might be just far enough down on the leaders to not end up in traffic. Certainly if I was down the order and stuck in traffic, like a few of those drivers, like Zabdir now, who's found himself way down compared to where his pace should have him, I would definitely be in, because he's going to get clean air as a result, and he can make some ground in that way. But for the likes of Blankenberg here, yes, he is stuck, but he's going to be even more stuck if he's down in 20th place and he's in the middle of a real train here. So you've got to weigh up your options. And these guys, unfortunately, there's not a lot they can do. They've just got to wait for a little while.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, if I was going for an undercut on someone in a race like this, I'd be coming in 5 minutes before the halfway point of the race, right? That's an undercut to me. 15 minutes before that point, I'm all that's going through my head is like, you're asking for trouble. You're asking to go through, like you say about Zabdir, right? So Zabdir's been in, you're expecting him to come out into clean air. Well, look where we are now. I believe he is still in the pit
Having a long
lane.
stop.
Yeah, I think it's probably repairing damage as well. So yeah, bad example, but still, like, yeah, if you are towards the back end of the field, you've come in, you're serving your pit stop, you're coming out. You can see Zabdir coming out there of the pit lane. What's he coming out into? He's coming out into this traffic. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the same kind of traffic. It's all traffic that should actually be moving pretty quickly. They're literally at the same speed as most people driving the M40, but you're still in traffic.
Yeah, but I think that's the difference. The fact that Zabdir has found himself, yes, he's a lap down, yes, he's in traffic with the leaders, but they're not going to be slower than him. He's going to be slower than them for the most part. Yes, there's a danger that these drivers behind in this fight for 6th place could all blue flag him out of existence over the next few laps, and that could be quite painful. But if he avoids that, and he just at least holds pace with these other drivers, I think he's going to be absolutely fine. And he is going to be able to make up some ground. You've also got to look at the likes of Kunze and also Sen as well. You can see 27th, 28th, they've come out in a world of their own. So, they're entirely clean air. And the same cannot be said for the drivers they were fighting with previously, because there's a lot of trains with a lot of drivers stuck right now.
I love that saying, getting blue flagged out of existence.
Well, he would.
I mean, no, I know exactly what you mean, because when you've got a train behind you, you get blue flag past one, then another, then another, then another, and then you lose 3-4 seconds from just letting that entire train go, potentially more so. So you're absolutely right, but I've never heard it being put like that. I think that's great. Ewan Rosen, who is our focus here, obviously 11th spot, was battling it up there for the race lead early on in the race, and obviously fighting over for pole position as Mosen comes into the pit lane. Now looking to move his way up the order. He's got to the outside of Parv at the moment, but the Romanian driver is going to hang the inside of the first corner, and Ewan Rosen will have to work a little harder to make his way past that Ferrari.
Yeah, he wasn't quite brave enough on the brakes on the outside there. Or maybe some would say he wasn't quite stupid enough on the brakes on the outside there, because it wasn't really going to work. Parvan positioned his car very well, and it was going to be always hard for Rosen. Once again, has a look, nothing really doing there. He'll stay behind at turn 4, and the two of them will likely go single file through the middle sector, I'd imagine, unless the Corvette really fancies applying the pressure through here. We certainly have seen a lot of this Ferrari being strong on the brakes so far. We saw it with Vermaelen earlier, who, by the way, has dropped to a 2.5 seconds behind Pfeiffer. But Parvan here, once again, it is sort of demonstrating the real strength for this Ferrari, and that is really going to make it hard to overtake.
Yeah, I did get a message from Lino earlier. He was just racing in the WTCRs we just saw, saying that you could enter one of these Ferrari 488s into Formula Drift, which, from what we've seen from some of the driving, I think absolutely spot on. Right now, though, for Parvan, that is exactly not what he needs to be focused on. He needs to be focused on keeping that Callaway behind. By the way, it's a 2-second lead from Pfeiffer, looking to make it 4 from 4 and secure the title here in the GT3 Pro Race in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2 of 2022. Is doing an absolutely incredible job. Look at his best lap, look at his last lap. 131.197, 131.254. Blisteringly consistent and just pulling away, almost, as it seems, with ease from Vermaelen right now.
Yeah, it seems that way, and he's been doing this all season long. I've got to say, while he has been, of course, put under pressure in these races here and there, I've not really seen him too much actually, looking like the pressure's getting to him of some of these races. Even at Daytona, where, of course, he was run very close in the end, and he didn't even cross the line first. But, even then, he didn't look fazed by any of it. This championship, I've got to say, has never really felt in doubt, and I've got a similar feeling in Season 1. Even though, he didn't win the final race, Vermaelen did, and he only won the championship by something like, what was it, 8 points maybe at the end? It wasn't very many, but even then he looked very calm. So, it's one of his great strengths, really. Whoa. And that's somebody off. But yes, it was. But yeah, Pfeiffer once again just demonstrating just how good he is in these situations. You can tell he's been in a race-winning situation like this many times before. Put it that way.
Yeah, again, as much as he is quite young. I don't remember how old he is now. The thing is when I first started commentating on 5, I'm pretty sure he was 18, and so in my head that was like 3 years ago. So in my head he's still like 18. It's just how it goes when you're in the commentary booth for such a painfully long period as I am. I think everyone's got bored of my voice, but Pfeiffer, he's won in so many championships, whether like even at the highest level of competition on this platform, like I said, with the WTCR esports stuff, with DTM, with ADAC, with the Cupra Sim Racing Series and whatnot. Like, he's raced in most of them, and he has raced towards the front of most of them. Such a well-experienced outfit as well in Enduro esports. Now, obviously, they're not really helping him in this. This is not really their priority for Enduro esports. They've got plenty other things to focus on. This is just like Pfeiffer just kind of basically just showing off his ability and his skill and kind of keeping it to himself. It just shows that even this level, his ability is just it's near bulletproof. I would doubt he's put that much practice into this. That is how much confidence I have in Pfeiffer's ability. Is that I think he's just sort of come along and been like, oh, it's a bit of fun.
And that's another advantage of the fact that he's using the Bentley the whole time, is that, you know, if he, this may or may not be the case, but let's just say the Ferrari was miles stronger than everyone else, than every other car at Interlagos. And, you know, Pfeiffer went over to that car just because, you know, it looked really strong or whatever. It wouldn't look like this. It would look a little bit ragged, you know, if he'd not practiced so much or anything like that. But the fact he uses the Bentley every time means that he knows it so well, and you know, doesn't have to put quite as much practice in, as I said earlier, to actually learning the car before you learn the circuit and learn the conditions with which you're going to race in, and then the strategy, what strategy you're going to employ as well. All of these things kind of eliminated for you when you're using the same car every time. So it's another big advantage really to Pfeiffer using the Bentley every time. And of course in future championships, if there's a GT3 needed in a big RaceRoom Championship, then there's going to be no contest for him which car he's going to take, and he's going to, you know, be very familiar with it before he's even started testing for the season itself.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, you understand the characteristics of the car, and in GT3s they're all very, very different. And the big bad Bentley certainly is one that works in favour for Pfeiffer. A few drivers coming back into the pit lane, onto pit lane. Brown and Svensson joining the rest of the contingent that have come into the pit lane, now making it 10 drivers that have visited the pit lane thus far. We're still 36 minutes left to go in this race, so we're still only we're less than 10 minutes into this pit window right now, and so there's plenty of opportunity for these to come into the pit. And I still reckon for most of them, for Pfeiffer, for Vermeulen, for Rue Felipe, for all that lot, I would be surprised if they pit. Well, they're not going to pit before the halfway point in the race. I find that very unlikely. Maybe Blankenberg might, just to try and jump Luciano a bit, but I'd say for most of them, they're probably going to pit genuinely in about 10 minutes' time. They'll pit with much less than half the race to go, surely.
Yeah, I think it's going to be possibly even less than half than that. Really, we couldn't even be inside the final 20 minutes for the likes of Pfeiffer and Vermeulen here. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because you've got to look at where Alex Mosin is right now, and he's obviously in a battle with the Chazo. We're watching right now for 20th position. We'll get a good indication as well when Guillaume Vigneron comes out the pit lane as well here. These guys are not all that far off the back of the train if Roker's to be there. He's the final driver who hasn't pitted yet, running in the order. Now, admittedly, that's a 7 or 8 second margin, and then there's another 5 or so seconds to her end in 18th place. But even so, you don't really want to kind of mess with that. You don't really want to pit early, because Pfeiffer would come out in traffic, and it would lose in the race if he plays it wrong. You know, pitting this early, obviously he'd never do that. But if he did, Vermeulen would obviously be a lot quicker than him. Pfeiffer would have to fight his way through traffic, and it could lose him the race overall. You see with Vigneron there, he was inside the top 10. He's not come out that far behind Rokas to be there, and so any driver, you know, 6th place on forward is going to come out at the back end of this train, and they're going to lose time. There is
a right and a wrong time to pit, and that's for quite a few reasons. There is Vigneron leaving the pit lane ahead of Mosin and Dichatso, so great stuff through that pit window sequence. There is, you know, like I said, there is too early, there is too late. By the way, Pfeiffer's just come into the pit lane, so he has come in for the races. It's literally what we're about to talk about.
Wow.
Very, very early from Pfeiffer, but it's because you take, as I'm being told in my ears actually, you take just 2 tyres in the pit lane, right? So too early and too late can affect the balance badly. If you pit too late, and let's say, for example, you change just the front tyres, So your rear tyres worn, or you just change the rear tyres in front of them. That's, however which way you want it, left, right, whatever you change, fair enough. But let's say you change the front tyres, your rear tyres are worn, you come out the pit lane. Now, if you pit with, say, 35 minutes left to go, the wear is much less, the differential will be less, which means the balance will be more predictable. Meanwhile, if you come out with the tyres essentially on the rear really worn, comparatively to the front, the car will be dangerously oversteering, and you're kind of like you've got to find that right time to pit. That's why Fife is likely to have come in much earlier than we think, and there is a speeding in the pit lane penalty for Rui Felipe, obviously from third position when he came into the pit lane, and he will be dropping back much further than that.
He is going to be miles down as a result of that. Rui Felipe has only just come out in front of Luciano Vitva. Actually, that wasn't a big gap there. Or, sorry, isn't a big gap right now. And it was a bigger one earlier. Well, I say that, it's 1.5 seconds now.
It was 2 seconds before the pit lane.
Yeah, neither here or there, really, is it? So that's stayed the same, but it will change very soon. Rui Felipe is going to have to come down pit lane, drive through, penalty for him. Such a shame. He was obviously going to be in the battle for that podium position, and I thought he was going to develop actually into a freeway fight between himself, Vitva, and also Blankenberg, who's still out there, yet to pit yet, but that's going to be ripped away from us now. It's not the easiest pit lane in the world to get onto here, in terms of you're coming from such high speed to such low speed. It is, or a very small mistake can get you a drive-through with the speed that you're coming down from.
Rokers to beat, another one to add to the list. We probably will see, I was thinking we'll probably see 2 or 3 in this race. Like I say, it's a very easy pit lane to make a mistake on. You're coming from such high speed through a slight chicane into the pit lane. You lose about 20 seconds, by the way, for doing a drive-through. So to have a couple added to the list. Vermeulen needs to be one that isn't on that list if he wants to challenge for this victory. He must make sure that he's got a clean, safe pit entry, but clean and safe is not fast.
No, and it's going to look well. It would have lost to Rui Felipe a position maybe if he'd have been extremely safe. So he pushed it, and I'm afraid pushed it a little bit too far. We'll wait to see where he comes out, but he is going to be outside the top 10, I'm afraid, for the Portuguese driver, and that is a real shame for him. Max Pfeiffer just finding himself in a bit of traffic right now, by the way, with Grunig just up in front. He makes his way through on the fellow Bentley now, but he will have had to follow through for a couple of those corners there. Does that just leave the door ajar for Axel Vermeulen to try and break through? We'll wait and see, but I think if it does, Vermeulen's got to be in pretty soon now, and try and get track position while he can, because I think Pfeiffer with those with that pit stop now will be a little bit quicker now that he's in clean air.
I hope he wasn't that scared of Grunig, but does make his way past, as you said, make his way past Blankenberg, and Vermeulen will keep hold of the race lead as he's remaining out on the circuit. Blankenberg in the pit lane will drop back, obviously close to that fight with Luciano Vitford. But the question is he going to be ahead of Luciano Vitford, or is he going to be behind Luciano Vitford? That is the question. Traffic is a bit all over the place when it comes to the circuit right now, just courtesy of those that have and those that haven't stopped. Brankenberg, like I said, on pit lane, so Pfeiffer's moving his way up, Grunig dropping down the order and will be plenty behind Luciano Vitford, who's charging now down towards the first corner. Blankenberg's on the pit lane exit road, which is obviously still slower, so it's certainly not done yet, but I'm going to say by that, based on where he was, miles ahead.
Miles ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Really, well, not even close there. 5th place right now, but it's going to turn into a podium for Blankenberg, and I bet he's surprised about that. Not only the position, but I think if Rui Felipe was still there, he'd be behind Blankenberg as well. Yeah. I don't know what the German has managed here, and I don't know how he's done it, but he has. What's that, 3.4 seconds there? It's not even close, and you've got to wonder how that's happened. I mean, I didn't see Vitva in loads of traffic or anything. Did Blankenberg knock a second or two off his stop somehow? I've no idea.
Yeah, it's kind of either he saved time in a stationary time in the pit lane, or he was sat behind and just went, right, when the timing is right, I am going to push. I'm going to sit here. And we did see him protecting his tyres, protecting his car in the early stages, and then probably decided that right now's the time to absolutely go for it, and it's just absolutely leathered the throttle. There is most chat so extremely the battle for what is presently 8th position as Axel Vermeulen has come into the pit lane. And will potentially relinquish the race lead based on where Max Pfeiffer is, based on the fact of that check hasn't disappeared. The race lead is gone back the way of the German. is gone back the way. That's great English.
It just about has. You can see the Ferrari taking a lot wider line. That's me joining in from turn 2.
Oh, nice.
And so the gap will remain about 2 seconds by the looks of things. Ferrari out the pit lane. There it is, 2 seconds. Pretty much as you were between the top 2. Still waiting for a couple of drivers you can just see in the background there to come in. But in terms of big surprises, Blankenberg obviously getting up into 3rd place. I'm amazed he's been able to... If that is raw pace, that's astonishing.
Yeah.
For over 3 seconds. If that's raw pace, then really hats off. But as Ichazo goes on, I was just about to mention this battle because Straightman's was well, that was nearly dicey, and it was in the end. In the end, Straightman's lost a bit of time in that pit stop phase, and so he ended up behind the likes of Ichazo, and also he's behind Mosin right now. And I'm convinced he was in front before. The Belgians lost quite a few positions in this pit stop phase.
Yeah, there's a few that have had a bit of an iffy one, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, like I say, it is what it is for some. We'll look at this battle though between Kunze, who's just got ahead in Fato, but got Rui Felipe directly ahead, who will be now desperate to recover from that drive-through penalty in the chat. So who's already joined onto the rear with us. I was genuinely concerned about that region, but clearly the turning circle on that 488 is actually pretty nice, which is uncommon. For a racing car to actually have a decent turning circle. Managed to get his way back going again, throwing his way into the front of traffic, and even the very best have ruined that one recently. Not pointing any fingers at a 2-time Formula 1 world champion, but he has also rejoined in sim racing pretty poorly, so might as well point it out every now and then. Pfeiffer, Vermeulen, and then this battle, Blankenberg getting past Hochelinger, who's yet to come in and is the only driver yet to come in.
I know someone else who rejoined the circuit poorly at this circuit, actually.
Don't say anything about me.
It was Lewis McGlade.
It was me, and it was an awful rejoin.
It was. me and Cam, obviously, we're not quite as throw people under the bus as you are, so we didn't quite rip into you as much as maybe we did off stream. But
you should have done though. Absolutely should have done.
Possibly, yeah. It wasn't very good. But,
it was unacceptable.
Thankfully, we've not seen too much of that today. But anyway, here's a battle for 7th. It is going to be the battle for 6th later. Mosin has done a good pit work here to get up towards the top 5. Not quite been able to break into it, unfortunately for him. Straightman has lost a bit of time, and Mosin has having a bit of a resurgence in this race. Back up to 9th place after his incident in the first 10 minutes.
Going quite tight on the rear end of Mosin. You can see Strediman and you can see Yuval Rosen, who will be also desperate to recover. And we've seen some great moves from him early on in the race. He loves a move, as you're absolutely saying, he loves a move down the inside of Pico de Pato. There's another one to tick off for Rosen. So up now to 8th position. Big kick of oversteer as he heads down the hill up towards the final corner at Jinchao, and then the race up the hill. He is aggressive with those moves. He loves it.
He's very aggressive indeed, and we've seen it not pay off actually in the opening moments of this race. He could have really done with a little bit more reserve actually in those opening moments, and he might still be challenging up towards the top 5 positions or so. But now that things have spread out a bit more, I think those kind of moves are coming off for him a little bit more often because it's not quite so cramped anymore between all the drivers. But yeah, he's certainly making some good moves. And I think Alex Mosin is going to be next in the next few minutes. I can't see him holding on for too much longer with the way that he just dives down the inside at pretty much the first opportunity. It's going to be hard to hold him back.
He's putting on a good show. I'll say that is Rosen has marched back up. I think 6th is about as good as it's going to get for Rosen, but still, we'll never know. It's Rosen versus Mosin. More of this stuff which confuses me. Not quite as bad as last round when we had Pfeiffer battling with Pfeiffer, but Mosin and Rosen is still pretty confusing.
It's not great. It's a bit of a nightmare. But
it's hard to say quickly. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, and it might start getting pretty fast paced very soon. So let's see about that. But yeah, for now, Mosin holding on well. Rosen just kind of laying the groundwork really for a move here. Needs to get a bit closer before anything can really happen here. Although that will help, Mosin didn't have a very good line at all through Junshao, and maybe there's going to be an opportunity sooner than even Rosen thought. Yeah,
so as we race back up towards the start finish line once again, he's out wide as Mosin's trying to hang on. I think Rodger had to lift off ever so slightly there and might invite Stredermans back into this fight. Is there going to be a dive bomb down to the first corner? The answer is no. So Mosen is going to be able to hang on, but I can almost guarantee that there will be a look, a dive, a potential lunge either down into turn 4 or up towards Ferradura.
Yeah, you can be sure that there's going to be some kind of look very soon. Stredermans has been fairly aggressive as well in terms of the moves he's made so far in this race as well, so it could all start to get very aggressive soon. Oh my word, that was really late on the brakes and really, well, not on very much either, really, from Rosen. And so he's lost a load of time as a result of that.
Yeah, I think Igor Rosen's entered the wrong category because that was a touring car-esque attempt. Obviously not really on down into turn 4. You're absolutely right. I mean, I was going to say he gave a good go of it, and I would understand if it was the last lap of the race, but I don't really get that one to me. Kulas and Griddy, by the way, switching over for their final spot inside the top 20, switching over a few times. I'm assuming they're going side by side some point early on. That probably would have been around turn 4 and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, an odd attempt for Rosen, but the battle for 6 remains.
Yeah, he does do that on occasion. He does make some very well-measured late dive bombs and some very good ones, like we saw on Stredermans just in behind that you can see, but then a really rash one into turn 4, and I don't really know why he would go for it. But to be fair to him, maybe he wasn't even trying to, he just broke where he normally does, and it ended up going a bit wrong, or outbraking himself or whatever it was. But anyway, this is a lot more of a better opportunity now, although it's early on the brakes sort of on this occasion. Into turn 1, oh, very nearly contact. Mosen has got the nice line into turn 2 and defends well at stopping Rosen in his tracks through this NRS.
Yeah, Mosen basically pulled it up to the apex beautifully on that second apex, and it just meant that Rosen was trying the up and under, and it just didn't work. Stredermans is going to get back involved in this fight. We're on board with him now. The Belgian driver looking one way, looking back the other, still settles behind Rosen right now, who exits turn 4 and heads his way back up the hill ever so slightly towards Ferradura, and will potentially try and make a move, not through this corner, not through either of these apex, potentially into the next one at 7. That's where there's a decent overtaking opportunity to properly send one. What would you say, by the way? I think for Malin, over the last couple of laps, has brought the gap down ever so slightly to Pfeiffer. Nothing major, nothing to be worried about if you're a Max Pfeiffer fan, but still the gap concerning. Sometimes it's been coming back together again. It is going back out. Maybe it was just a bit of a wake-up call towards Pfeiffer.
I still think that the German very much has this race under control, even at 2 seconds. He's shown how he can control races very calmly, even when it's quite close. And I think that today is going to be another example of that. Mosen seems to take a very early apex for Zhou, and it's really hurting his exit up the hill there. Rosen with a lot wider and swinging entry on the way in, a later apex, and it's giving him a great run, especially towards the back end of the home straight, and he's going to try and use it again in towards turn 1. It's a really half-hearted attempt to defend there from Mosen, middle of the road, inside line for Rosen, who misses the apex, slides into the McLaren, and it's a similar story, although instead this time the Corvette going around the outside might bring him a bit more luck.
Yeah, he's got the inside through turn 3, does Rosen and Mosen battling it out, side-by-side contact between the two again. Stredermans getting back involved on the race down the Retroposta towards, of course, Desquita de Largo, turn 4. The move is still not done. Rosen looking aggressive. I mean, when you see them, when you see the likes of Rosen battling this hard, it is not surprising why he's not been able to finish inside the top 20 thus far this season. Alas, he is putting on a great show. It's a fantastic battle here for 6th spot, and there has been a drive-through penalty for ignoring slowdown warnings to Victor Svensson, who's presently in 14th position. That'll be for track excursions, and the slowdown penalty is referring to if you've been off track, you've got a slowdown penalty, you've not served it. There is Rosen back to the inside. Mosen runs out wide, no position to switch. Once again, he loves that look down towards Big Pato.
Particularly disappointing for Spencer because he was about to join in with this fight. You can see in the background there's a number of drivers getting in here. Parvan, Felipe and also Kunz are going to get here. Fasher as well, maybe Brown and Svensson not too far away from this fight, and if it continues like this, we could see a mighty train towards the end of this one over 6th position. So especially disappointing for Svensson there from 14th, who's going to have to come in soon, as Rosin is going to look at turn 1 again. I think this is his 3rd lap in a row now, and Rosin gives him a lot more space that time. Don't know whether he outbraked himself or intended on doing that, but it's not worked out well, whatever he was going for. Rosin is through, and Straitmans is now going to try and get through on the McLaren as well.
Yeah, he went in so deep there, he nearly ended up on a different Brazilian circuit, did Mosen. It's allowed Rosen to get through up into 6th spot, and I think Rosen's definitely got the pace to pull away, especially if Straitman's going to be close to this battle. Out wide once again is Mosen. The yellow flag is out as Svensson comes into the pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty for ignoring the slow-down penalties. I think the yellow flag might be for Roland Sen, who's dropped back behind and sabbed it, by the way. Imagine having a podium back in Daytona and then coming here to Interlagos thinking, right, season finale, what can I do? Finish 25th.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he's going to finish there, but he is down there now. And of course qualified really well. I don't know whether he's inside the top 5 in qualifying or whether he just missed out, but yeah, way down. And a real surprise to see.
Clearly he's had drama. Let's be
oh yeah, yeah, no question, yeah.
That's not on pace.
No, not at all. But even so, it's a disappointing finish for him. Rui Felipe, by the way, is making great inroads in these final, final few moments as well. We're about to get into the final quarter of an hour of this one now. And yeah, he's been marching through this group. He's had to do a lot of overtakes, but he's still clearly displaying very good pace. And it will make him wonder what could have been as well after this one, because that drive-through has cost him no end, possibly even cost him a podium.
Well, if there's someone that's going to threaten Yuval Rosen's 6th place in this race, it will be this man, Rui Felipe, who we ride on board with in that 650S. Out wide once again with Alex Mosen. Gentleman has got to the inside, breaks a little bit early in his Audi R8, but still holds that inside line. It's going to be out wide once more, potentially from the McLaren, certainly does so. Manages to just about keep it within track limits. I think there's 2 wheels on the curb running through turn 4 and turn 5 in that central section. By the way, Rokas de B has been disqualified from the race. That'll be for a breach of instant points, so he's breached that limit, and I don't think somehow he is going to be the only one at the bottom of that list with a DQ next to his name. I do get the feeling that someone else in the next 16.5 minutes will be joining him.
Well, quite possibly. We saw one halfway through the race in WTCR and then never again, so I don't know. Maybe we won't. But we'll wait and find out. It is still not great news for Rokas to be, really, with more than 16 minutes to go of this hour-long race, that he's already breached the incident limit. I mean, it's these drivers should really be getting to the end of these races without getting disqualified at all. Never mind into the final quarter of an hour. So there we go. Unfortunate day for Rokas to be. Rui Felipe is getting very close to the Audi of Straitmans right now. Going to look towards the inside again. He's going to have this move, I think. Just lack top end speed to really get down the inside there. And Straitmans is going to continue in that position, although Felipe's got a nice run out of 2 here and might have a chance into 4. But he didn't do that particularly well either.
Yeah, I mean, gave it a good go. I wonder who else is quite close when it comes to incidents. I think the top 2 are certainly nowhere near them, based on where they are, but they are getting near each other because the Maylands closing in. It's now 1.7 seconds when we head into the final quarter of this race, the final moments, the final chapter of this season. Is there a final turn-paging bit of drama between those top 2? We'll have to wait and see as this battle grows. Did get told by the way that Rokas got involved in a couple of incidents with no fault of his own towards the end of his run in this race, which I do understand. Sometimes you do just get involved in drama. It's no fault of your own. We all have those kind of races, although I do say you do have a few instances to work up. It's not just the 1 or 2, as Rui Felipe gets his way past Stredermans and will work his way into 8th position. I wonder, just purely based on the fact of how many drivers he's been around, I do wonder if Rui Felipe is going to be anywhere near that. Would almost guarantee that Rosen's probably quite high on the list, considering how aggressive we've seen Rosen, and just based on how close quite a lot of this mid-pack's been, there's probably a few in here that aren't a million miles away.
Possibly, but it is also possible to make these moves without contact and picking up loads of incident points. So if he's been managing that, then he'll be absolutely fine. Oh, that's an instant point though there for Barvan, really late on the brakes in his defence of 10th position. it went disastrously wrong. Kunz tries to get through on the exit now, and he's going to have a go into turn 4 here, no doubt. Oh dear, Parman tries to cover the inside line. Kunz was already alongside him, and the Ferrari goes smashing into the wall.
Yeah, that the cool kids will give that one a very, 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 very solid F. For a very, very solid barrier as well that Parvan smashed into. That car will be damaged. Will keep going, 3 seconds ahead of Cherdron, but still, yeah, Parvan's dropped well outside of the top 10, and unfortunately will probably be struggling for the next 13.5 minutes as another lap is complete by 5 for the gap growing. Just keeping you updated with what's going on towards the race. The gap growing ever so slightly over the last couple of laps, back out to 1.9 seconds. I think this is literally what we've been talking about time and time again. This is Pfeiffer controlling things at the moment, but if this is pure control, this is very, very brave. To kind of keep that gap under 2 seconds rather than trying to go, right, I'm actually going to pull away a little bit here. It's almost like allowing for McGlade to get closer, burning out his tyres, which again is a risky game. That Ferrari is getting closer and closer. This is 1.5 seconds now, so clearly it is pretty tight.
It is. I thought Max Pfeiffer was home and dry, to be honest, but maybe it isn't quite so simple. 1.5 seconds. Although I still do fear slightly for Vermaelen that the German ahead is just controlling this margin, controlling this race. And when Vermaelen gets within a sniff of a slipstream, maybe he's just going to kick on again.
Yeah.
And really put this one to bed. Still just over 12 minutes to go. Vermaelen's catching so slowly as well that there's even a danger this far out with this small of a gap that he actually runs out of time, because he's not exactly making tenths of a second inroads every lap. This hundredths here or there.
Yeah, it's like I say, it is incredibly tight, but I kind of agree. I just get this feeling from what we've seen from Pfeiffer that he's just keeping a little bit back, just in case, just for when he needs it. As he battle for 10th position, that final spot inside the top 10 is brewing. Kunze and Brown going side by side. That'll be through the middle sections. White switching over so many times. It'll be into turn 7. They've gone side by side, and Kunze takes over the final spot inside the top 10. Back with Rue Felipe, who is very close to the back of Mosen. Moses had a few dives down, or has had a few dives down the inside of the big red power, mostly because of Yuba Rosen, let's be honest. He was quite close to having another one, because that very loud coloured 650S is sat there and is waiting.
Loud coloured? Wow,
yes,
yeah.
So it is a loud coloured.
It is. Oh, I don't disagree, but I like it. Felipe going to try and get through. Here, by the looks of things, Mosen going to give him a hard time again. The old versus new in terms of McLaren GT3 machinery. Outside line for Rue Felipe. Gives him the inside for 2, but he doesn't want it. He's going to go for the exit off of 2 instead, but this has repeatedly not worked for him. And with the exit he's just gotten there, I don't think it's going to work for him again.
To overtake around here, especially if you want to overtake into turn 4, if you want to overtake into turn 7, you have to think about it 3 or 4 corners ahead. You can't just do it as things happen. A bit of battling directly behind. That'll be between Kunze and Brown once again, heading through turn 4. That'll be almost getting to the inside of the comparatively quite small McLaren. I can tell you the McLaren's quite small because I've climbed in one and then ungracefully climbed out of one. Yes, indeed. So it was pretty embarrassing. Alas, they are quite small cars. The Bentley's probably more my style. It's a lot bigger. It can take my sheer mass.
Yeah, so it's almost you could almost take your kids to school in the Bentley. To be honest, it's
my kids. I don't think you could.
Well, you could actually. You can fit them in easily. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to see how different all these GT3s are. Though, of course, it's one of the pulls of this category, and it's been so for many years now. Approaching 10 years, probably, maybe more.
Oh, I think more.
More now. So time's getting on. It's been from day one one of the pulls of the category, really, in terms of what makes it so fantastic, and we're seeing it right now. Something you wouldn't see very often, actually. The new McLaren versus the old, as Kunze makes his way down the inside, aggressive move on Mosen, and he will not make it through on that occasion. Gave it a good go, but wasn't quite strong enough on the brakes there. And Mosen was just strong enough on the outside in terms of his defence to hold on to that place.
So we thought we were going to start a discussion there, basically a podcast with pluses and minuses of GT3 racing. I think we should hold off until Saturday for that one, where we'll be literally chatting about all that kind of stuff. We'll ignore that for now, but There are a lot of pluses and minuses to it, and one of the big pluses is the racing we get, and this is more of it. Brown to the inside, almost trying to get past Kunze with the up and under, just on the touch, almost breathing over the rear end of Mosen's car. It was so tight between the two of them there. There was a bit of a brush, and straight back around the outside, Brown's going to go. That's a brilliant move if he can make this one stick. He's got to get to the outside of Bico de Pato, where I'm pretty sure that 650 is going to send one straight in. Just the ever so slight overlap, but the big Bentley sends it in, uses the cambered nature of that corner just to hook it around the outside, almost Bristol style, to get that one in there. But brilliant stuff there, and a brilliant move from Brown.
Yeah, fantastic move. We just saw Kunze was just slightly slowed up actually by Mosen, who really parked it on the apex there while he was trying to defend his place, and that helped Brown to run around the outside and eventually complete it. The Bico de Pato, great pass from him, and up inside the top 10 as Rosen is just falling down the order a little bit. Needs to be careful. We know he's pushing it fine on incident limit points now, and so he's going to need to be careful. Straightman's going to take advantage of that with the outside line to turn one. Rosen's all over the place and he's round. Oh, it's going to be outside the top 10 again for Rosen, I'm afraid. He's fought so hard to get back there, but he's all of a sudden going to fall back outside and drops to 12th place.
This is going to potentially get the top 20. ... We'll have to see if that one will come true in the next 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Very aggressive driving there from Rosen, but now has about 7 seconds to the car to the rear. Only a couple to that car ahead, so I'm pretty sure there still will be some it'll close in and potentially get involved in the battle. Once again to the outside, Brown's going to try and get to Mosen, but he might have to worry about clearly someone who's become a good friend in this race, because Kunze and Brown have been separated by literally nothing. They are remaining very, very close. I'm pretty sure they're going to come across the line as such if this continues.
Yeah, possibly.
Oh my god, look at the times.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Last up from a 34.2.
Yes, it's it's still very much fights going on right now. I think is what we can say from those lap times. Obviously, these guys can go about 2.5 seconds quicker than that. So, yeah, very telling as to what we've seen in this fight. Fight for 8 now, though it's starting to get less cars within it. We saw a big train earlier on. That's now reduced to 3 for the final minutes of this race, but that doesn't mean Mosen's got any less defending to do, as Brown makes his way to the outside now, but hasn't really got the space there to really run around the outside, although he's going to give it a go anyway. Inside for 2, that's going to be tight, and he's going to get a poor exit. Here comes Kunze as well. We'll see where he can get to. Could be 3 wide here if they're feeling brave.
And I'm pretty sure they are feeling pretty brave. We ride on board with Kunze over to the left-hand side for Etta Aposta. Over, back to the right as we head down into the braking zone at 4. The inside, much tighter line being taken by Mosen. Kunze staying off the back of it and allowing them to do their thing. And just as an FYI, I did see it ever so slightly for the first time in half an hour. The gap for the race lead went sub 1 second for Malin's, closing in straight around the outside though at Ferradura and completes it. Wow, that could be move of the day from Brown to have sent it all the way around the outside of Ferradura.
Very, very impressive indeed. You don't often see that right around the outside of that corner. It's so long, so difficult, going over the crest there as well. The curves on the inside are really where you want to be, but right around the outside for Brown, who really doesn't mind an outside move. That was very, very impressive indeed, and he's in 8th place now. I'd imagine he's going to keep it as well, because Mosen once again is looking in his mirrors and could even lose out on a top 10 here if he's not careful in the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, because Fatjet's also closing in. Mosen's pace is really struggling. A driver that we've seen be fairly fast on quite a few occasions in Season 2 of 2022, but this occasion is not one of them. Looking very slow indeed, really struggling to keep these tyres alive, and he might well lose another position on the race down towards the first corner because Kunze's there, he's sending it in. There's going to be a contact between the two because, wow, that was very aggressive between Mosen to have closed him straight down towards that curve. And when you do that time and time again, you are asking for trouble.
Absolutely. A lot of these drivers are at this stage, and Mosen's going to do well to hang on to a top 10 here. He really is vulnerable. Kunze has struggled to get through historically, but that is wide from Mosen. He's out wide through 4 and 5, and here comes Kunze, who's going to force him to the outside line though at Ferradura, and we don't see that happen very often, even though we did 1 lap ago. It's not something you can count on very often, so Mosen will hang on to 9th for now.
this is a tight battle, isn't it? Kunz's still there. That car joining them is not for position. That's Florian Vutric, who's been into the pit lane twice this race. But behind that, yes, of course I'm sure. How dare, did you know who I am? The one that's joining on the rear end of that is Yuval Rosen. So Rosen will be a backup part of this, but he has got a little bit of lap traffic to get past as well. But that Audi R8 that is the third car in shot, that is not the position, it is 2 laps down. Can't believe you doubt me.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were referring to the Corvette, which I would argue is third car in shot there, but anyway.
As a technicality it is. I was trying to,
sorry, I was just getting my mind in a bit of a mangle there for a moment. But anyway, the gap below a second for the lead here. Is this really an opportunity for Vermaelen to snatch this one away from Pfeiffer? Is the perfect 4 out of 4 for the German out front going to be denied? I still have my doubts. There's only 2 laps to go after this one. Yeah, exactly. 2 laps. With it being a 90-second lap, he's only going to have 2 laps to fully close in and to get through. Now, I think he's going to get there. I think it might be a drag race to the line, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in it. The battle for 9th, 10th and 11th continues to switch over time and time again. I mean, to be fair, they're still in the same order as when we looked away from them, but despite them switching over about 300,000 times on that timesheet, there they go again. Still in the same order though, so don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm not sure how they're managing that. There was certainly at least an attempt at a move, some movement, but no actual positions gained or lost by anyone. Half a second between 1 and 2 right now. Has Vermaelen just timed this one perfectly, or is Pfeiffer just playing with us all, including Vermaelen, of course? More laps, traffic get out of the way. That was Kulas, I believe. I think from this point on, I think it is clear. Wow. I mean, if you ever wanted to see the smallest clip to show how much Vermaelen is pushing, that clip, that is showing how much he is risking in this race. I mean, to be fair, he could have a full 360. I mean, he could probably have a cup, pull over and have a cup of tea and get back, probably a coffee, but still, and then get back going again, as they are 20 odd seconds clear of Blankenberg. Second place will still surely go the way of Vermaelen, even if he drops it right now. And so that's given him the all clear to risk everything to push to catch Pfeiffer, to try and take race victory in the final race of the season, just try and stop the 4 consecutive race wins. Yeah, going to try and stop that, and of course I think he is the most likely candidate to do that. You would have said that at the start of the race. Not a good exit out the final corner of Jun Xiao, though, I'm afraid, for him on that occasion. So he's missed out on the opportunities towards turn 1. He's not going to get any more chances into turn 1. He's too far away at turn 4 as well, I think. So Pfeiffer might just about have enough here. But as you mentioned, Vermaelen is not leaving us in any doubt as to how hard he is pushing. Based on the onboard we just saw. Final lap now, final chance. Pfeiffer still very much with the advantage. This is going to be a barnstormer of an end, you've got to say, based on what we're seeing between the two of them. Again, Vermaelen was going faster on the previous lap by 1/10 of a second. He's deep in that slipstream. It's going to come down towards that final run. There is the answer as to how hard he was pushing, as well as Pfeiffer. There was a spin. That was from Marcus Grünig in that green Bentley. He'll be dropping down to the back of the field out at T4. But keep our eyes focused on this battle for the race lead. 0.3 of a second in that central section. This is going to be a drag race. It is going to be a drag race to the line, surely. It could be, but you've got to remember, Vermaelen's got to time it right. He can't be right on the back of the Bentley as they get towards the King at turn 13. He might have just thrown it all away there. He might have just thrown it all away. The gap was only 3 tenths, but then he had the big slide. Oh, it's another big slide. He's gone around now. The race win surely will go to Pfeiffer, who's going to get the 4 out of 4. Nice little flick spin as well, as he would get back going again, nearly with a poor rejoin. But like I said, he had to risk everything. He had to try. Second is still a basic guarantee. He's going to struggle to get it up towards the line. This driver's not struggling though. No mistakes. It's Mr. Perfect. It's the perfect season from Pfeiffer. 4 from 4 as he'll cross the line to become the GT3 Pro Champion, the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2 of 22.
What an effort from Pfeiffer to take 4 consecutive victories. Vermeulen will join him on the podium once again, but second is not good enough. The title will go to Pfeiffer again. Blankenberg towards the line with a super strategy call to grab himself a podium. He'll come over 1 second clear of that driver he was fighting with in the early stage of the race. Luciano Wittfoot cannot be seen on the podium. He was an outside chance for the title today, and 4th place definitely isn't good enough. Blankenberg, though, 3rd spot, the top 3. What an effort from all 3 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Blankenberg, without that strategy, wouldn't have gotten that podium. Wittfoot, I think, had slightly more pace on the day, but with that strategy, Blankenberg was able to get that final spot on the podium. You mentioned it though, Vermeulen had to give it everything at the end of that race. He certainly did. You can't fault his amount of trying that he put in throughout that race, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough for him as the battles inside the lower portion of the top 10 come over the line as well. A decent race in the end, actually. There was a steady stream of battles throughout, actually, which was pleasing to see. And another very enjoyable race in this season, but the championship was decided long ago.
Well, Zabdir is going to try and get another position on the race towards the line. It won't just about do it, and it will go to Tom GL. GL, obviously, good luck, obviously. I will look at our finishing order then. Pfeiffer with the victory, Vermeulen with the fastest lap and 2nd place. Blankenberg to move up 5 positions to get to 3rd and get his first podium of the season. Luciano Wittfoot, Vigneron, Rui Felipe with the recovery drive up towards 6th. Stridemans in 7th position. Brown, Fasher and Mosin round out the top 10. It was an intense battle towards the back then. We'll see the rest of them go their way through. Got to say, great drive up the order from the likes of Parvin, from Florian Arend as well, to get up towards those kind of positions, to dodge some of the crazier driving that we saw in the down this end of the field. It was pretty mad. We only had 1 retirement and we only had 2 disqualifications, considering all of that in the form of Svensson and Rokas to be those 2 disqualifications. But that's the season done. I mean, what a season it was.
Yeah, very good season indeed. As I mentioned, the championship didn't have quite that dramatic finale that we were hoping for, and that we certainly got in the WTCR and F4 categories. But we did get some very interesting races indeed, including here today at Interlagos. It was a very nice race. As I mentioned, steady stream of battles throughout, which is exactly what you want. And not too much time where everybody was just driving on their own in single file. There for sure were 1 or 2 moments of that, but it didn't last for very long. And yeah, Interlagos proving itself once again as a championship finale venue that is just unbeaten.
Certainly will. Well, hopefully we'll be able to see the RaceRoom Ranked Championship back in the new year, of course, back in 2023. It'll be fantastic to see, and then hopefully you all watching can come and get involved. You can download RaceRoom anyway to go and get involved in some of the ranked racing that's on the platform regardless, which you can do for free through Steam, and then you can buy some of the content packs to get you in, particularly the starter pack, which will just get you into that racing action. There's so much good racing on the platform, and hey, maybe one day you'll get involved on a broadcast commentated on by any of us. Whether you really want that or not, that's entirely up to you. Thank you all for joining us, though. That is us complete for the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2 of 2022. Congratulations to all of our champions in the Rookie, Am and Pro categories. From all of us behind the scenes, I've been Lewis McGlade. Ewan O'Leary has joined me on this broadcast. Of course, we've had Cameron Rodger through the season and, of course, on the Am Trophy. You'll catch all of the highlights on YouTube and all forms of social media, so be sure to stick around on all of that. And, of course, a big thanks to Captain Coffee de Cristo, who's been bringing us the broadcasts all the way through the season. Until next time, though, thank you very much and goodbye.